Go ahead and.
It's not flashing.
Oh, you got that there.
Should I just leave this for Carl? David, tonight,
You got the magic touch?
are you testing? What kind?
What's that?
What kind of medium is it you testing? Huh?
It's a medium. I'm covering it tonight.
Okay. Okay. Dirk.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you heard, but Nolan lost another brother last week. He said, "Oh,
Janine, are you about ready? Just have to hit the button and probably ought to hit the gavel before Nolan gets here, just so he. I'm sure glad he doesn't have to. We scared him a few times where I was worried that we landed in someone's lap out there.
No jump on that gavel before. Oh, man. Even when he knows it's coming.
2, 3, 4, 5. I don't kind of wish they were here.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything from either one of them.
No, they were going to be here, so.
I got a bunch of emails, but they were all cut. That makes me so mad.
There's a little group. That's like the whole shot. A lot of them couldn't be here, so they just. Yeah. Someone text Nolan, Carl, just for. I'm sure they're on their way, but. Start, so.
I didn't see any minutes.
What's that?
We didn't get some minutes at the last meeting.
Next time, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
They should have been on there. We'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's Cache County Council meeting here on November 12th. We appreciate everyone that's in attendance. We'll go ahead and we'll start, and I'm giving the opening, but part of my opening, what I'd like to do is, there's a little video that I'm going to show here. It's in kind of remembrance of our veterans, and if we'll go ahead and watch that for a second.
deserve to win. Has that heartbreak reached and Ho Chi Minh in foreign deserts, on land and sea, they stood for justice and liberty. They left their youth while in harm's way, sacrificing dreams they face their day. I'll show their purpose, their legacy, protecting freedom for you, for me. These are the stars, our heroes still, whose rightful place no one should ever fill, whose full of freedom that they might die, so those who live may see old glory fly. For history and for this time, may our nation stand with hearts aligned, praise their service, to place their name beside the heroes enshrined in faith. These are the stars our heroes give, whose rightful place no one should ever fill, whose soul of freedom that they might die, so those who live may see old glory fly, see her fly, old glory fly.
This, excuse me, it's an echo here. This video was actually written by a lady that lived out in Lewiston 20-plus years ago. She lives out there in Lewiston right now, Robin Butters, and some of you may know her. But that's when she wrote this song and put it to music, and then she's kind of perfected it. But then here lately, she's put it to the all of the different sceneries. If you looked in there, you probably saw a few of the sceneries from locally around here, and in honoring the veterans and everyone that's just fought so hard to keep what we value so much and are able to enjoy and have today. I found that fitting. I saw that come up on a thing and asked her if we could play that for this to honor the veterans, and we're so grateful that they do what they do, and that to keep us, basically to have us just enjoy life. And we need to make sure that we honor them in every way possible. I'm going to finish my opening in the form of a prayer. Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful. We're grateful to be here. We're grateful to, in the past few days, to have remembrance of those that have served our country, those that have served thee, and those that we can have remembrance and gratitude and honor for. We're grateful for this wonderful valley and everyone in this valley and everyone that gives of service and of help to each other. We're grateful for opportunities we have to be able to speak freely, to be able to speak with our minds and to share ideas and our feelings with each other, and pray that we'll always do it civilly and that we'll be able to understand and keep things open-minded. And we're grateful for all those that protect us each and every day And we pray that thou would bless them. We pray for a blessing to be upon every individual, those that are in deep need, as well as those that have plenty. We pray that we'll all be mindful of each other, help each other in every step that we take. Pray this night that that would be a special blessing upon decisions that will be made, that they will be inspired by thee and good for everybody. Again, we're grateful for these things and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
If you'd please stand, remove your hats for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll go ahead and we have two agendas that's ahead of us here, and we'll go ahead and I'll take a motion to approve both of them.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve both agendas, the county council meeting as well as the special county council meeting on the public hearing for the consideration of the proposed tax increase. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. We don't have the minutes here. We'll have to approve those next time we meet. At this point, we'll turn over. Is there any report from the executive?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few seconds to say thank you to all the council members and also to the staff who have been working so hard over the last several months to be finalizing and working on the budget. I know Wes and Brittany were even here yesterday. And so I appreciate everyone's efforts and the Appropriations Committee as well. And just look forward to helping the council finalize it this year.
Thank you. At this point, let's go ahead and 7A and setting that public hearing. We can do that.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to set a public hearing for November 26, 2024 for ordinance 2024-22, an ordinance making adjustments to the salaries of certain Cache County elected officials. Do you want me to do the rest of them too?
No, the others are public hearings.
Okay.
And so which we'll have. Moved and seconded that we set the public hearing for November 26, 2024 at 5:30, ordinance 2024-22. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Let's go ahead and down here to, if we can, we got a few minutes that we won't be starting these public hearings till about 5:30. So let's go ahead and we'll move down here to 8A. A resolution approving the Harris Farm Round 2 open space application. Steve, you got anything there?
Yes, I do have an update. And once again, the Harrises are with us tonight. If there's any other questions that we may have for the applicant. Say, would you mind turning it over to... So so at the last meeting, this item was brought before the council. The Harris family owns about 225 acres located out between Richmond and Lewiston, kind of along the Cub River that they're looking to place a conservation easement on. And the applicant has requested, let me just make sure I get the right number. They've requested $590,625 for the conservation easement and up to $21,000 in administrative costs through the conservation bond. At the last meeting, as we were discussing, one of the items that was brought up for consideration is the roadways in the property. And so I had an opportunity to sit down with Matt from our Public Works. Sorry, it's not going full screen for me. But I can kind of pull out the roadways that we talked about. There are 3 roadways that run adjacent to the conservation easement request. There is this roadway right here, which is 10800 north. There's also 300 east, and there's also 10600 north. As you can tell, all three of these roads kind of have different purposes. And after discussing these roadways with Public Works, staff would recommend that if approved, and this conservation easement moves forward, as they survey the property, that there's a couple things that council should take into consideration. The first one is, right now, 10-800 North really just dead ends into the Harris Farm. This is currently where their pivot is, and so this roadway only serves to access their pivot at the moment. And so if this is properties to be put into long-term conservation, perpetual conservation, as staff, we don't really see a reason for us to continue to keep that roadway, and likely would recommend that eventually it should probably be abandoned before the easement is recorded. The next one is 300 East. This roadway accesses not only the Harris.
We would have to go through the official
Yep.
aspect of abandoning that, so.
Yep. The next one is 300 East. This property accesses not only the Harris property, but also the property that's located to the north and east of the Harris property, and likely will eventually serve as broader connection in the area. And there's currently some dedication for that roadway, and we don't think anything should be changed with how that is currently, whoops, I just moved my thing, how that's currently listed. The last one is 10-600 North. There is currently a roadway that's used to access not only by the county, but by Richmond City. This is Richmond City property that's down on the south end of this. There is some dedication of, well, it looks like there may be some dedication of it, and may not be. Our recommendation is that as it is surveyed, that official dedication and access is recorded for those properties if the county chooses to move forward with applying or awarding funds for the conservation easement. And so those are really kind of the broad updates off our conversation.
I believe that was the only question that we really had, and that we wanted some update on that.
Yep.
How does that affect the landowners? How do you feel? We're good, okay, okay.
I have a question, Stephen, about the funding. It lists the funding that's already been gotten, or that's already been approved, like from the Lee Ray McAllister Fund and from Cache County, but that still doesn't equal enough. There's still funding that's missing, so is there something in place to secure the rest of that funding?
Yeah, so right now, correct,
It should be ours, because we're doing 15%, the leader in McAllister would be 10, and then 25 and 50.
yeah.
Yeah, in RCS.
So it doesn't add up what's here, because it says that you need 2,362,500 is what the easement value would be, and then the numbers that are listed, I don't, unless maybe,
Yeah, I supposed to say, I put together a,
it's just a little bit short, and I didn't know if there was, like, if we approve this tonight, is there other funding for the rest of it? Is there going to be?
yeah, so they did provide that plan, and I put together a spreadsheet, if I can find it real quick.
It's on page 9 of the conservation plan that we have.
Yeah. So this is the total that I have on what they've recommended, and I'll just, which is 2,362,000. Yeah, so that,
Is it, okay,
yeah, so I think maybe what the question is, their current estimate of the property value is about 14,000 an acre, which is the 3 million. However, the difference in the property value after an easement is applied would be that $2,362,500. So what they're asking is to make up that difference, because the conservation easement won't eliminate the full property value, but it will diminish it by about 75%. So they're hoping that the ease between the NRCS, the state, the county, and self-donation to cover that 75% of the value. And then they'll retain ownership and potentially in the future, they could sell it for the other 25% if they wanted to, but there would be that permanent easement on it.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just,
Any other questions? I would actually jump down to 9A, or 9, no, I'd actually entertain a motion. It's pending action, so if you want to approve this or not, to send it on for round 2.
I think this was round 2, wasn't it?
yeah, is
This is
Yeah.
round
Oh,
2.
I'm sorry, yeah,
So I move to approve resolution
yeah.
2024-25, approving the Harris Farm Round 2 open space application.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded that we go ahead and approve Resolution 2024-25, Round 2 of the Harris Farm open space application. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimous.
Thank you.
And good luck there. Appreciate that. It's quite an orchestra, try to get all those pieces working all together. So you guys started up a new playing the flute now, or what? Quite? Okay. Thank you.
He was taking us to dinner tonight.
No. Okay. I think we're probably close enough that let's go ahead and go to 9A, or excuse me, 7B. Okay, let's go to 7B, ordinance 2024-20, Vernon Investments Rezone. You back up there, Steve?
Yep, this is time for me to get comfortable.
Yeah, well, we ain't gonna do that. Go ahead and share some. And this one here is under initial. We'll have the public hearing here in just a second.
Let me just pull up my notes real quick. Thank you. So the Vernon Investment Rezone is a rezone request of 5.06 acres to parcel, which is parcel 11-093-0008. That's right here on the border of Wellsville City. The request from the rezone is currently is agricultural A10, and they would like to rezone it to industrial. So essentially, this would allow the property that is established currently, it would allow it to expand into a more industrial type use. It's important to note that any development on the property would still have to go through a conditional use permit, or if the zone was awarded, any future development would have to go through a conditional use permit and other development review processes. The Planning Commission did review this, held a public hearing on October 3rd. Their recommendation and conclusion, based on the findings of fact noted in the staff report, they recommend that approval of the recommend approval to the Cache County Council as follows: that the location of the subject property to be rezoned is compatible with future land use zoning, that the subject property falls within future annexation area for Wellsville City, and the Wellsville City General Plan identifies the area will be zoned as commercial highway and commercial general, and that immediately to the west within Wellsville City boundary is already existing business that is owned by the applicant, and that is congruent with the proposed zone. We did reach out to Wellsville City, and Wellsville City did not provide an official statement or recommendation for this rezone. And are there any questions?
We'll hold those for a second. We'll now open up the public hearing. Anyone that would like to comment on the Vernon Investments rezone? If you would, come up here to the microphone, state your name.
Move to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing. Move and second that we close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? By the way, anyone else that if you haven't come in, if you haven't signed over there, those that are visiting and coming as part of the audience, make sure that you do, so that we have your name there as far as attendance. Stephen, I guess we're back up. What questions would you have of Stephen over there? None?
It just makes sense. I said, this is good for planning and zoning. This company does a lot for the community, and I think they're awesome, and so this just helps them, and so it's.
It's pretty congruent with everything around it too, isn't it?
It's congruous with the use adjacent to it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, with that in mind, well, actually, if you want to jump down to 9A and suspend the rules, or we can move on.
I will suspend the rules and make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024-20, the Vernon Investments rezone.
Second.
Moving seconded, that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 2024-20, the Vernon Investments rezone. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. Okay, let's go on to the public. We will start the public hearing for ordinance 2024-21, Chambers rezone. Stephen, share that one.
So this property is located out west of Smithfield. It's a highlighted parcel. This is Smithfield boundary right here, kind of in the black line that you can see. You can see this is the temple site right here. So the applicant is requesting a rezone of 8.47 acres from agricultural A10 zone to commercial, C zone. This zone may allow the parcel to be established uses permitted in the commercial zone, and a rezone request is general in nature and it's not tied to any proposed use. And so essentially this would allow the applicant to respond to any use that's currently allowed within our commercial zoning. However, the applicant did state at the Planning Commission meeting that the intent behind this is to potentially expand to storage units. However, it's important to note that it could be any permitted use within the commercial zone. The Planning Commission made a positive recommendation on the Planning Commission held a public hearing on October 3rd, 2024, with a positive recommendation to the council to approve the rezone, subject to the following, or based on the following conclusions: that the location of the subject property to be rezoned is compatible with the purpose of the commercial zone to provide compatible locations for retail, office, and business commerce activities, to enhance employment opportunities, to encourage the efficient use of land, to enhance property values, and to strengthen the county's tax base. And the zone must be appropriately served by suitable public roads, have access to the necessary water and utilities, and have adequate provisions of public services. And also, on conclusion 2, that the Smithfield City Manager, Justin Lewis, provided a public comment that states that Smithfield City does not have any concerns or issues with the rezone request.
Okay, I'll now open it up for public hearing for the ordinance 2024-21 Chambers rezone. All those that would like to come and speak on that, please come up here and again state your name.
Hi, my name is Don Cripps. My lot is adjacent to this. My back door is about 50 feet from this property. In reading the ordinance and reading the code where it states, I don't believe this rezone meets any of those requirements. It certainly isn't a good use of agricultural land, and this is prime agricultural land. It's not going to enhance my property values, I can guarantee that. In terms of tax base, self-storage units are pretty bad because they're not really heavily taxable. So I am definitely in opposition to this. I wrote a letter, which I think most of you have probably read, and I just don't feel that this rezone meets any of the requirements for rezoning to commercial. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any others? Anyone else like to? Again, come up here and state your name.
My name is Dirk Howard. Just becoming aware of this particular rezone request. Looking at it, it looks like they're asking for a blanket request to be moving this into commercial of any type. without really specifying what that is going to be and without giving a clear indication of how that's going to impact the community in the nearby places, or how that is going to really bring in a positive benefit for the economic base for the county, or even into Smithfield City. So because it's kind of an open-ended blank check, I would encourage you to put this off or to deny the permit.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Chambers. I'm the one that's trying to do this, and I speak in favor. I mean, I agree it's prime ag land. I've run it my whole life. I know what it is. But I'm looking for the future of me and my family with what's going on with the temple and just east of me. I'm gonna be forced to do something that I don't want to do, so I'm trying to do something that I can do to control. I don't want to sell it. I'm trying to do something that I can do to control my destiny, and yes, we are looking at a few other options, but it's gonna be something that what he stated, so. But I don't want to sell it, and I don't want to build on it either, but I'm gonna get forced to do something that I don't want to do, and I'm gonna try to control that. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moving second that we close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Okay, let's go ahead and, we're about that. Well, we're not quite to the other one, so do that one right here. Would you like to go down to 9B, or should we go ahead and talk about budget? Is Wes here yet? I don't see Wes.
Do 9B.
Let's do 9B.
Let's do 9B. Okay, let's go ahead and I'll open up for, again, it's initial. Let's go ahead and talk about ordinance 2024-21, Chambers rezone. What discussions would you have, or questions would you have for Stephen?
I do have a question from, well, Mr. Chambers mentioned that there's, I don't know, I don't quite understand. He said there's going to be something coming up, that he's going to be forced to do something. What is it that you're talking about?
Just directly.
Can you come back to?
Yeah, you'll have to come back up here, sorry. Thanks for,
You want to zoom that back so it's, oh, sorry.
yeah, you can just get rid of that.
That, where he's got the yellow right there, that has been bought by Visionary Homes. And so that's going to be all homes. They're going to put 300 to 400 homes in that area. And so it's just going to grow. And I don't want to see it either, but I haven't, I mean, it's already gone, and that's what it's going to be in. That's what's going to be in there. Visionary owns that right there. So that's what I'm saying is it's directly east of me. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm just trying to control my destiny. I don't want to be forced to do something that I don't want to do. I feel like I'm forward thinking about it, and my intentions, if we develop that and do something with it, I want to go buy something. I don't want to quit farming. I love it.
Other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chambers.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions, Stephen, anyone? Stephen, will you, counsel, if that is rezoned commercial, what are possible options for that to go commercial?
Yeah, so there are a few options. Just to name a couple, we're looking at any type of commercial business that doesn't reach the industrial level could potentially be there. That would include campgrounds, commercial kennel and animal shelters, self-service storage facilities. And it's important to note, outdoor storage, it would require an industrial zonage, but like a storage units are allowed in commercial zones. General vehicle repair, medical service facility, human care service, transient lodging, so like a hotel or something like that. They have facilities to support that, restaurants, mobile food trucks, education facility, telecommunication facilities, et cetera. So a lot of,
There's quite a broad base of, once that is zoned commercial, quite a broad base that could be brought into there.
correct. And it is important to know that any use that would go in there, all of our commercial uses are conditional, and so they'd have to go through a conditional use process and get approval from the planning commission. Under state code, the county would then be required to approve it if it could meet the conditions within the code. And so if they could show that they have proper services to be able to support that business, water, sewer, traffic, roadways, all access, then we'd be obligated to approve it. And there's obviously varying scales of what commercial facility would require in terms of service. Like a storage unit doesn't require much water, where a restaurant or hotel would obviously require a lot of water. And so there'd be some different impacts depending on what the applicant chose to do.
Other questions?
I have a question. Stephen, it says that the nearest commercial zone to this property is 2.85 miles to the south. Can you show us, like, in scale, where that, how that would,
Let's see.
like, how far away? Like, well, I guess 3 miles, I can.
So this is our property right there. This orange, I believe, is our commercial zone. No, that's RU2, excuse me. Our commercial should be in red. So we have some industrial zone down here in the south, also have some commercial along Highway 91. I'm trying to think, I don't think that's it in the area. And then for Smithfield, which it's gonna test me if I know their colors. Typically, anything in red will be commercial for most places, but
I believe there is one business straight to the west there, though, isn't there?
yes, there is.
They have not been rezoned, they're conditional use
Yep, I believe so.
within the ag zone still.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine, Stephen. You can just get back to the subject property.
Nolan, any specifics on how the planning and zoning felt about this?
Well, they looked at it, I mean, you have to balance what's going on here. The landowner owns it, he is farming, he understands the nature of what it's farming, but at the same time, look what's going around him. And so, like he said, if he sells out, then somebody else does something different. So I thought the planning and zoning discussed it. I understand what Mr. Cripps wrote in his letter. But believe us, and I'm a farmer, I can't control ground staying in farm. I wish I could. I believe in property rights. And so I think Mr. Chambers has looked at his options and has to consider what's going on around him and try to do that. So I think the planning and zoning look at that. I've read Mr. Cripps' letter, and I understand he had some issues, but at the same time, I think the planning commission was all yay and no nays, right?
Correct. It was unanimous. And I would agree. Councilmember Gunnell's synopsis of the planning commission's discussion is very accurate. I think it was weighing the needs of the private property owner and what they could do with their property to continue to allow them to be successful in their venture with their property and other properties in the area.
And I mean, commercial is a zone, but at the same time, it's not industrial. And it is more residential there, but at the same time, where we have residential, you have need for storage units and other things too. So hopefully it's a proper blend, but if you zone it that way, we can't
control.
needle down and control what type of business is gonna go in there. So,
And as far as access, if there were storage units, is there road access to that area?
Both, yeah.
Yes.
So both sides, okay,
Yeah, so you have 800 west and
Yeah, it's-
Okay.
660 north.
I think they're both, yeah, both paved too.
okay. Could you blow that up, Stephen? I want to see just how close Mr. Chambers' property is to Mr. Cripp there. Yeah, bordering right on the edge there, okay. Thank you.
I remember when that was all open ground as a kid. Very, very vivid. But I wasn't in favor, and when it all got, well, every time you turn around, there's another home, another home, another home. But I know I feel like Nolan. I have a hard time, a real hard time going against private property rights. Now, if this was like going into industrial, then I think it would really have a big impact on an area. But I think we've got to, we have to weigh more heavily on, like Nolan says, on the property rights of the individual, what they can do, and that whole area is getting pretty well, it's getting eaten up. It's getting eaten up fast, so.
Well, we'd have to provide a pretty good reason as to why we didn't support the planning and zoning in their decisions and
Yeah.
listening to what was going on there as well. So I think planning and zoning listened and stuff, and Mr. Cripps, we did read your letter and we're listening, and so, but at the same time, growth is coming.
Any other comments, questions? This is an initial, so it is at the privy of the council either to hold that off for the next meeting, or if you'd like to do something with it right now.
I would make a motion to suspend the rules and that we approve ordinance 2024-21, the Chambers rezone.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we suspend the rules and approve ordinance 2024-21, the Chambers rezone. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm going to abstain because I have land and everything right there in that same area. So I'm going to abstain from voting on that. Plus Chris is a good friend. I don't know. He's a good friend of mine. I don't know whether I'm a good friend of his, but, so I will abstain for that. So, okay, thank you very much. At this point, it's 5:45.
Just C?
C, yes, let's go ahead and, yeah. Let's go with 9C.
I apologize for being late. I got rear-ended on the way here. Oh,
Just now?
yeah.
To keep you from
You
coming
okay?
getting
On the
here.
way here, yeah, I'm fine.
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
How's the car?
A little damage, but
Is it?
it's still drivable.
Oh, man. Glad you made it, though.
16-year-old kid who just got his license.
Oh, no, that's even worse. It's even worse.
Carl?
Stephen, I guess does this fall onto you on the annexation?
Yes, I'm presenting on it, though. I'm not the applicant, or just, I just
Yeah.
sent an email to request it to be on today.
There's quite a few of these little annexations, kind of a little hot time right now for,
Yeah.
found that kind of interesting, so.
So Nibley City requested, the Nibley City planner reached out to me and requested that this be placed on the city council agenda. Sorry, I'm trying to find my notes. The area that's outlined in the red, it's a little bit difficult to see up on the screen, is the proposed annexation into Nibley City. This is about 52 acres. The blue is area that would remain as unincorporated with, because the blue section, the unincorporated area, is surrounded by city on 3 sides, over 75% of the border of the property. And because the width of the property is less than 25% of the border, it becomes a peninsula under state code. Under state code, a city cannot annex property if it creates an unincorporated peninsula unless the county and the city agree to allow it to move forward. And essentially what Nibley City has requested from us is for the county council to review it and to either provide consent for it to move forward or not to provide consent. The Nibley City Council a couple weeks ago accepted the annexation petition. That allows the petition itself to move forward to the public notification process and hearing process, and to allow the city to gather facts on the annexation before they make a decision. So while they're in that process, that's why it's in front of us today. There are a couple things that we felt like should be discussed as you're reviewing this. So here's the actual annexation plat. So there are a couple things worth considering. Couple of the items, and a lot of it stems between what 1500 West will become, which is this road right here along the western side. As you can see, based on their plat, the proposed annexation is to annex up to the asphalt, but it doesn't annex the full right-of-way. There's also a section of roadway that's here that will not fall within the annexation. And so staff has some concern that currently 1500 West is not brought up to a municipal standard, and this will serve as an access point for this development. On the other side, you have 12th West, which the annexation is proposing to annex the full thing, and there are and 12th West has been approved south up to the border, and so we don't have the same concerns with that section. So the other item, let's see.
So they are annexing the complete road on the east,
Yep,
but how about on the west, not?
correct.
So
Not even
Stephen,
a
it will be full width, go down to not full width, and then go back to 60-foot right of way.
Yeah, I can maybe pull up a map, that might help.
I do not like that.
I don't like that either. For safety reasons.
No, it's their road. If they're gonna annex it, they annex the road instead of go and build and everything, and then leave the burden of the road on the county.
On the whole road, not to the middle.
Yeah, it's the whole road, exactly.
And so this side, this is 1500 West right here. So the annexation, you can see the road doesn't go all the way out to the edge of the right of way. The annexation is only proposing to take in up to the edge of asphalt, which essentially would mean that when they develop, they'll likely just improve this one side, which I don't think just improvement of the one side is a problem, but not the annexation of the full right of way is an issue about who maintains, and when the other side develops, what standard is it developed to. But then this gap between the two between Nibley City boundaries, potentially becomes an issue where when this property is developed and their access off 1500, we'll have a county roadway that's not up to standard for this type of development that'll serve as the connection between the city roadway.
How many feet is that across that property that's gonna be the peninsula?
Yeah.
The whole block?
Yeah, a block, 650 feet.
Is there a reason why they don't just annex that part too? Or is it the landowner?
The landowner doesn't want it.
Yeah, so this property owner to the south does not want to annex in. I think it may, if the council wants to consider it, I think it may be appropriate to potentially enter into some sort of agreement with the city that this roadway would be improved to standards. But I don't know if there's a representative from Nibley City here, but that is something that may be worth considering as part of the issue. There are also, the other issues, there are a couple of red lines on the plat from the county surveyor. Most of them are pretty minor that could be addressed. Those would have to be fixed prior. And then, yeah, so that's really, the big issue is really the streets, that from staff's review.
And there, okay, does the property owner to the west, they're going to annex basically to the asphalt edge, right?
Yep.
So the property owner to the west, doesn't he own all the way to the center street of that road?
It doesn't, it looks like it is an official dedicate. Yeah,
Oh.
Matt might, yeah, it looks like,
They've actually,
yeah, it is dedicated.
okay,
This is dedicated for all the old farm survey flats, so dedicated all this between Newby and Hiram.
okay, thank you.
So is the county maintaining 1500 West from that point down to where Hiram picks it up?
So if Nibley, if they dedicate clear to that asphalt edge, what kind of responsibility does the county have from there to the west, to the property owner right in there? Zero?
Our issue is the gap,
Yeah,
sewer, water, utilities, infrastructure, and we won't have, the county, you're gonna have a substandard street between two developments.
yeah.
That's what makes a hardship on the county.
That road is traveled a lot. 1500 West has the butter, what's it called? The butter.
Yeah, there's,
Butter.
I know it.
West
West-
Point.
West Point Dairy.
West Point Dairy on it, and so that road is traveled a lot. And I think that's a safety hazard too, to come down there and have them come down narrow. And then,
Well, okay.
I think we need to think about that one.
Other questions or?
Yeah.
So if there is, if the council is, because we can not consent at all, and
They
then.
can still move on, or move ahead, can't they?
Yeah, so if we don't consent to this, then the annexation would be illegal, because it would create an unincorporated peninsula, which requires the county and the county and the city to agree. If we would like to potentially talk to Nibley City and get a better, maybe see if we can work out some sort of arrangement, if we're interested in allowing this to move forward, staff can work with them to see if we can get that done over the next couple of weeks.
so it's those two property holders across the bottom and then the one above it?
Yep, so these three right here.
Oh, the other way around, so
not-
not Shaw.
Not the Shaw.
Yeah, not Shaw.
So is the road in front of the Shaw property, is that unimproved as well? Is that in the same condition as the road heading out?
Yes, I believe so. It's been a while since I've been on this road. Matt would be able to talk to that a little bit more. But the annexation, if they annexed in, this road, typically when they annex in, we don't require them to continue improvements out into the county, but it's really the big concern is this gap right here.
That's what they'll have to, actually, that gap right there, that'll be a huge issue that they'll have to get fixed to join that to their other property somehow. They're gonna have to, but they still will leave that'll be a lot of wear and tear on a county road in between two areas. That, we'll be burdened with the cost of that as a county rather than the city that is using it.
Can we legally require them?
We can actually send it back there that they gotta have some sort of remedy on that whole road before we accept it.
That's how I would feel
Yeah,
too.
Would make it, if that's a possibility.
How do you feel? Is that
I don't wanna accept it this way.
No, I don't either.
Do we have to deny it, or can we kind of just,
We table
we
it?
can just give them the
We
feed and
table
say,
it?
hey, we gotta have a better remedy on that road.
with
Yeah.
Nibley City that is,
I can reach out to Nibley City and express the concerns from the county council and ask that they either meet with us or come with some sort of solution. And they've been the ones working with the agent for the application more directly than what we have too. So they'll have a better idea of what they're wanting to accomplish with the annexation.
that'd be my proposal rather than flat out denying it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how I feel too, so. Okay, we'll send you back with that recommendation, go from there.
Thank you so much, council.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, at this point, Wes, you ready for that little presentation, that little PowerPoint, could you?
I've just got a few printouts coming,
Okay,
so should be here within a couple minutes.
well, we've got a couple
I
minutes.
can start to set up.
If you could, and then we'll go ahead and while you're setting up and that, we'll get ready, we'll be ready for that, and then we'll, because we can start this, this public hearing for the property tax, possible property tax increase, so. Again, if you haven't signed in, we appreciate that if you would please sign in up there, so that we know who is all here and in attendance, so. This is a government at work. It's good. It's good. Yeah, that's true. Hardly any. That's very, very true. Yeah, I'm gonna have a piece of chocolate in between.
Doing good, Dave.
He's got a neat little presentation. He's basically gonna say what, share anyway, but.
That means it's not working.
Got another dead one.
Gotta speak really loud. I don't know what the deal is.
Also like to get a placeholder. Seems like we need to batteries or something.
Sheriff's here.
I'll have to fight those.
I know he's packing.
What did he say?
Yeah.
Let's go. You go get those papers or something?
I'll find it. I'll talk to Bart first.
Getting it set up, so. Yeah, Carl, he.
So, whenever
ready,
you're
Wes?
ready for me, let me know.
Yeah. As portion of the county council meeting, we are also having, this is a special county council meeting. That's why there are two agendas that were approved. And as part of that special county council meeting, which is here at 6 o'clock, that we will be included a public hearing consideration of a proposed property tax increase. We're going to be having a public hearing about that, and then be talking about that. And at this point, we got a little bit of information that we would like to share with you. We'll first go with that before we will open up the public hearing. So Wes, go ahead and share some information about that for us. Hopefully it'll answer maybe some questions as we get into this.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Erickson and council. So, yeah, so with a property tax increase, there are certain things that we have to go through as a county, required by the state and county code. So, again, we have to go through the process of noticing the public and inviting them to a truth and taxation hearing. So this is that truth and taxation hearing. It's, required to be separate from other meetings and to take public comment on the potential tax increase. County provided a notice to citizens on the potential tax increase of up to 20%. So as a county, we cannot exceed that 20% in the current fiscal year on our portion of your property tax. So the council, after considering public comment, will evaluate what, if any, increase they determine to be appropriate. You'll notice kind of a copy of a similar notice you might have received in the mail. So how this impacts the typical properties or average properties within our county. On an average primary residential property value of about $528,000, which is basically the average property value here for a residential property. The tax increase, again, if we did the full 20%, would be up to that $63.76 over a year. On commercial property, the value of around $1.5 million, 1.451, the tax increase could be up to $318. So that is typically, though, that's the average, not necessarily the median. Many of your regular commercial properties that are for regular smaller mom and pop businesses, you're going to see more like a $118 increase in your property tax bill. We do have a little bit of a skewed average just because we do have some large businesses in the county that have expensive commercial real estate. In order to increase the certified tax rate to generate new tax dollars, a truth in taxation hearing is required. So us as a county, the only way that we can raise our revenue, it's set and held until we go through another hearing. So last time we raised our property tax rate above the certified rate was in 2020. So you can think of this as we have a tax base, large tax base. Your piece of the property, you get your piece of that, say, 18 million that we're currently at for county operations, roughly. If we don't hold a hearing, we can't increase above the 18. So as different entities make changes to their rate, and as your property value changes, you may get a larger piece of the pie or a smaller piece, depending on what happens there. So increased value on individual properties can result in additional property tax. So that's based on, again, what your property is valued at. The county has gone through the process of getting some software to make it so instead of having your property have these huge jumps every 4 or 5 years, they're evaluating properties that may be outside of what should be taxed in their typical type property. Rate increases by taxing entities can also result in additional property taxes. So again, the county, we get a portion of that property tax. And again, the assessor's working very hard to provide equitable values countywide with new software and new processes. So I want to take just a second. So this is kind of a typical notice that you would see. You can notice that of the $2,000 on this typical property tax notice, total amount that goes to the county specifically for their operations is around $355. So we're increasing the 20% on that $355. And again, the purpose of this is the council wants to make sure we maintain a strong financial position. Much of the services that are provided by the county really go back to your basic public safety, public works, prosecution and public defenders. Those make up just between the sheriff, public defender, and prosecution, that's around 55 to 60% of the budget that the county has and operates. It's also to increase the debt service coverage to ensure the county obtains the best interest rates and rating possible. So in order to get cheaper interest rates, we have to maintain a certain fund balance and certain strength in the county's records and on their balance sheet. We need to maintain, again, that sufficient reserve to ensure ability to provide these basic services even with economic uncertainty. And the increased funding of capital improvements with surplus instead of debt. So we are looking to fund different capital requests and capital improvements throughout the county. Again, inflationary pressures, this is very telling. Inflation impacts all areas of the county's operations, not, it's personnel, it's operating expenditures, and it's capital costs across the board. The last time property tax were increased was in 2020. And I want you to think what has happened to inflation since 2020. Cumulative inflation has increased by 20+% over the last 5 years. So 5 years ago, we were getting more value for and more ability to operate based on what our value of our property tax dollar was 5 years ago. And this graph just shows how the western U.S. has been impacted. It's a little more regional. You'll notice there's a green line. It's kind of hard to read, but inflation in the western U.S. has been higher than what the previous slide, the previous CPI. So how do we compare to other counties? Excluding special service districts, Cache County ranks the 4th lowest on property tax charged. The per capita statewide average is $1,655.84 for these services. Cache County is currently at $767.67 for general fund, debt service, library, health, flood control, assessing and collecting, and that includes school districts. But this is excluding, mosquito abatement and some of those special service districts that maybe aren't comparable in other counties to what we have or operate. The county collects for the services it provides $153.25 in property tax per capita for county-only services. The average statewide is $206.97. So again, we've maintained a very conservative property tax rate, and we've been conservative in our operations. This kind of, again, reiterates the point that I was discussing on that notice of a typical notice. This is kind of how your your dollars are spent between school district, county, municipalities, and special service districts. So you'll see 17.4%, and that's tied to that document there. Your notice is going to be a little different depending on what municipality you're in. But that's kind of a typical what you would see. And that's it. Any questions, council?
Any questions that you'd have of Wes?
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you, Wes.
Appreciate that very much. Okay, at this point, we will be opening up the public hearing. And the public hearing, what we need you to do, if you have something you'd like to share, please come up to this microphone and please state your name. And roughly about 2 minutes for each person, so that we give opportunity for everybody. And if something has like already been said, try to say something either new or something that, you know, so we can kind of keep this flowing for everybody that happens to be here. And we appreciate everyone being cordial, and it's too bad we don't have enough seats for some of those that are out there. But we'll go ahead and we'll start. And please state your name and then we'll go from there.
My name is Dirk Howard. My concern coming into this is that the notifications that were sent out contained very little detailed information of what was going to happen, just other than the 20% increase in taxes. Now, that being very vague of where that 20% was going, how it was going to impact a particular home, property, business, that was very concerning that we just have a flat-out 20%, and the justification that we haven't done anything since 2020 is kind of weak. I think that what we need on this is the mill levy, where it's going, what it's going to affect, and we could actually take a look against our own tax notices that we just received to see how that increase is. Now, granted, the $3.5 million that this tax increase is proposed is only about 1/3% of the entire county budget. But my other concern I have is, where's it going? That also needs to be spelled out in a little more detail. Right now we have an adjustment to the salaries of certain Cache County elected officials. Who is that? And how much? I haven't had a pay increase since 2020 either. And it would be really nice if I had the power to vote that for myself. But I think that as stewards of the county's money and of the public's trust to use that money, we need more details before this proposal can go through. And I think that we need to make sure that if we keep kicking the can down the road of not increasing property taxes because it's inconvenient for an election or for my current position, that we need to take ownership and realize that pushing things further down the road without dealing with it is going to be a hardship on everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Lynn Lemon, and I'll try to not cover anything that has been covered. But I was shocked when we got the notice and it said that we were increasing property taxes by 20%. That's 1/5 of your budget, and based on my calculations, that means your property tax revenue is between 13 and 14 million. Now, I'm not sure. I heard 18 million, so maybe that's not correct. But to me, that's a huge increase. The next point I wanted to just ask is, what is your increase in your sales tax revenue? I'm sure you've had a large increase in sales tax revenue. I'd like you to look at that. And what is your total sales tax revenue? Do any of you know what the total sales tax revenue is? I think you should know that. I really think you should know that, because That's a huge source of funding. The next one is, what is your property tax increase in new growth? Every year, you get increase in new growth. And I don't think you need to drive very, very far around the county to see all the new growth. So you get all of that regardless of the truth in taxation requirements. So if you didn't increase property tax a bit, you'd get all the new growth and you'd be able to use that. And so that is what I really want to point out in points 4, 5, and 6. What portion of the increase is going to competitive wage increases? That's what new growth is supposed to be used for. What portion of this increase is going to additional staffing needs? That's what new growth is supposed to be used for. What portion of this increase is going for inflationary cost of goods? That is what new growth is supposed to pay for. And then I said, what infrastructure projects are you funding? I don't know. Do you know what infrastructure projects you're planning? What are they? I mean, are they several $million?
This is our turn to listen to you.
I know.
Yes.
But shouldn't we be able to get answers? The thing that I wanted to point out is, what have you done with the revenue that was being used to pay for the bond on the county administration building? That should have been paid last year. So that's a revenue that was being used to pay for that bond. That bond was up last year. The next question is, what are you going to do with the revenue that is being used to pay for the bond on the payment of the sheriff's office and jail complex? That payment should be finished this year. Couldn't you use both of those sources of funding to pay for your infrastructure projects? I'm just asking the question. In 2023, you said you would not raise taxes but would fund from the reserve account and cuts. Do you know what your reserve balance is? I mean, you don't want to answer the question, but isn't it fair for us to ask, what is your reserve balance?
$4 million.
24 million? Then think about that, $24 million. You advertised a tax increase in 2022. Did you not increase taxes in 2022? You advertised a tax increase in 2022. You sent out a notice that said you were going to increase taxes in 2022, but you didn't do it?
We sent out a notice, but then again, that we might have to.
Okay, so you didn't do it, okay.
We did not do it.
My last point is...
There were other circumstances, and I'd be happy to share those with you another time.
Okay, that's great. My last point is, why don't you let the newly elected auditor, Matthew Funk, work with the budget and see what he can do? I just think that I don't really see that there's a need to increase property taxes by 20%. And I would appreciate it if you would consider these points and answer them if you can. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Sean Moser, and I just have really it's just a one question. You mentioned that there hadn't been any increases since 2020, but that inflation has gone up a lot. We all know that because our inflation has gone up a lot, including our taxes, because our homes also doubled in value in that same period of time since 2020. So my house went from being worth about $250 to $500, so my taxes have already gone up big time since 2020, even if the rate itself didn't change. So I'm just trying to understand, didn't that increase by the revenue a lot with property values going up? So I don't know the answer to that question. That's why I'm asking that question.
Thank you.
It probably isn't often that someone has to lower the microphone, but since I'm 4'11", I think I better do that. My name's Ann Novell. My husband, Tim, is over there. We moved down here 19 years ago. We moved from Haley, Idaho. We raised 6 children in a small house, in a small pre-built. When we moved down here, we bought a big old rambling house. Took us 2 years of hard work to refurnish it and turn it into our dream home. The property taxes then were $112. You said in the statement, the letter you sent out, that you hadn't increased taxes since 1920. I have my return checks here. In 2021, my the property tax bill was $299 a month. In 222, it was $348. In 2023, it was $383. This past year, it has been $403. How could you, as elected officials, send out a letter that was so misleading that you hadn't raised taxes for the past 4 years? That is a 400, for us, that is a big increase. There's some other things that the gentleman that came before me had a lot of facts and figures. What I would like to do for the next minute or two is tell you how this increase has affected us. We're retired teachers. We live on our Social Security and our teacher retirement. When we first moved down here, we could go to a lot of programs at the Eccles Theater and things like that. We haven't been able to do that for years. We haven't been on any vacations, so we can pay our property tax. We have 20 grandchildren. We can't afford to buy them the presents, nearly the presents that we would like to, because we love them so much, just as you do your grandchildren. I haven't bought any new clothes.
Sorry to interrupt, but could you finish up, please?
What?
Your 2 minutes is over.
I'm sorry. I have never spoken at a public minute before.
You're doing great.
Would you please give me just another minute?
Yeah, well, just a few seconds.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
haven't bought any new clothes in over 10 years. This year is our 50th wedding anniversary. We had planned for years that we would try to go back to Branson. We are going out. We can't afford to do that. We are going to, one of our children gave us a gift certificate to Texas Roadhouse. That's what we'll be doing for our 50th wedding anniversary. I haven't been to the dentist for a dozen years. I had to go to the eye doctor last year because my glasses were so old I couldn't pass my driving test. I collect nativities. Because it's my way of sharing my testimony of Christ, and I've had to cut back on that, even though it was a joy for me to do that. When several years ago, I talked to the county treasurer, and I expressed to him how difficult it was becoming. He suggested we take out a second mortgage. That hurt me very deeply. It took us 31 years to pay for our house in Haley. And I will not get into a situation again of being under a mortgage. I just am asking you to consider the very personal repercussions that this tax increase will have on the people that elected you.
Thank you.
David Bust. My property tax is on a little less than 4-acre piece of unincorporated county. That is between Logan and River Heights, which I receive 0 county services for. My fire protection is from Logan City. The property taxes for that little piece of horse pasture in 1990 was $910. In 2022, they went down to $728. In 2023, they all of a sudden jumped to $2,387. This year, they jumped all the way up to $2,805. If that's not a tax increase, I don't know what is. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ron James, and I'm here representing Hardware Park Ranch Estates, just south of Hardware Ranch. There's about 150 property owners there. And our concern basically is that we don't see too many county services for what we're paying. The properties are pretty well remote. A lot of them is just raw property. Some people pull trailers on them. There are some cabins. For example, my property taxes this year are over $1,000. And the road to access our property is only half finished. The second half of it is not even gravel. And so our concern is the services we get for what we're paying for. I mean, I own a house in Logan, and I respect your services, you know, and I receive those services. But these property owners, there's not too many things we can point to as far as services. And so I guess what I'm asking you is, you talked about updating your software. I think the property taxes ought to reflect the services you receive. And for the people I represent, the 150 property owners, that would be more realistic. And so that's basically our concern. When we're paying full property taxes, and the only thing we can really point to is a road that's unfinished, that's pretty expensive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Sipes out of River Heights. And everyone I've talked to about this thinks it's pretty ridiculous, being honest about it. And as people have pointed out already, even though you have not perhaps increased the percentage rate for your taxes since 2020, the effect we are feeling has gone up year to year. And even as the presentation had made apparent prior to this, inflation's gone up that 20%. So you've already got your 20% increase just from what everyone's paying. A lot of us, our property taxes have doubled in the past 4 years, which means you are seeing 50% more in the past 4 years than the zero you'd like it to sound. And even in this agenda that you have sitting here, talks about it going to competitive wage increases and staffing needs. A lot of us would agree we haven't ever in our lives seen a 20% pay increase. And again, everyone I've talked to about this that lives around me in River Heights and in parts of Logan think this is absolutely ridiculous, and I wanted to voice my opinion against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Robert Brown. I live out in Hyde Park. First off, I just want to say thank you for the work you guys do. You guys put a lot of effort into it. The gentleman that started out this meeting showed where you guys are percentage-wise to other counties, and you guys do a great job, so I appreciate that. That being said, as a business owner and as a homeowner, you know, we've seen the cost of living, how it's gone. It's everyone's feeling it. You guys are obviously feeling it. That's why you're asking for an increase. And if we look back, 2009, about 15 years ago, give a good staple of where that cost of living is. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, cost of living's increased 37.5% since 2009, which is a incredible amount of, especially where in the county we have a lot of retired people that are on fixed incomes. And so I can see where it gets difficult for them when you start talking about property tax increases and stuff. The concern I have, and you guys are unfortunately lumped in with the school district and everything else that pulls out of that same funding, and I get that. But the problem I've got is, you know, cost of living has gone up, you know, 37.5, which is a lot. Property taxes since 2009 has gone up 69.52, which is almost double the cost of living. That's where my concern is. The concern is, are we looking at other avenues to try to come up with the income? Is there places we can save money? Have we compressed the old adage of make do or do without? Maybe there's some truth there that we need to look in and kind of see where we can save some of that money or come up with different money before we're increasing above what the standard cost of living is, because now you're pulling from a lot of people that just really don't have it. You know, when you're on a fixed income, you don't have that luxury of coming up with increases of wages or anything like that. It doesn't affect you any because you're living off Social Security and it's based off that cost of living. And so that's where I would look at, you know. I think you guys do a great job, but I think right now this might be a bad time with the increases we've had over the last years, especially with the houses going up as much as they have and the increase in bump that we felt from that on the property taxes. This might be a bad time to really be focusing on it right now, and maybe it's time to really dig into some of our numbers and see if there's other places we can save to come up with it right now until people can catch up with that cost of living. And that's my suggestion.
Thank you.
I'll be quick. The fact that property taxes, Mike Townsend. The fact that property tax is based on a percentage means you should probably never, ever, ever get to raise it, ever. Let's look at some numbers. So 2017, from Cache County's website, real property plus total personal property, locally assessed, $77.3 million. 2018, $82.1 million. That's 6% increase you got. Okay, let's go to the next year, $89.9 million, almost a 10% increase year over year. And then 2020, only 2.2% increase, but everybody got hit pretty hard in 2020. And then 2021, boom, another 8.9% increase year over year. You got $100 million. Cash 2022, real property plus personal property, another 9.78% increase. So we get to 2023, and from 2017 to 2023, you go up 48% in your income from property tax and personal property. Where'd it go? Center Street project. Where's the ROI on that? Logan River project beautification. Where's your ROI on that? Quit spending money on stuff like that. These people on fixed income, they're toast. So anyway, that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Council, my name is Jess Bradfield. I'm the former clerk auditor, and I swore some of you in, and some of you I've sworn at in the past. But you know, over the past 2 years since I've left, I'm glad to say that the council's looking much more handsome than when I was there. So, not the council, sorry, elected officials over here. Bryson, I'm very proud of you over there. I just wanted to come and say, I understand why we do tax increases as a former elected official. I was an advocate of incremental changes when I was an elected official because we needed budget. People don't realize it. And then the council tries to grandstand and say we're not increasing taxes, and then all of a sudden you're doing 20% increases. A lot of my staff would leave because I couldn't afford to get good talent. I was getting people who were fresh out of college. I was getting people who were doing this as after post-retirement jobs, and this was for federal elections. These were critical things for the auditor's role. And so it is necessary, and the government's run on a shoestring. The county is known to be conservative and excessively so. And so I would ask the council to please look at incremental changes over time. Second thing, what I would request I'm happy to pay the taxes, but I'd like to be able to come and petition my government in a public forum at the beginning of the meeting. We did it in Logan when I was on the Logan City Council, and I remember thinking, man, sometimes I felt like it was a waste of time, and now I look back and I valued that time more than any other time on the council because it gave an opportunity for people to feel like they were actually heard. And before you come up with 10 anonymous emails that disagree with me, I'd like to add one more thing, and that's that, hold on, I didn't expect the clap, so. The third thing is that it says that it's considered for competitive wages. Will this council commit, and I know you won't answer, but will this council commit? You have a history of denying some elected officials pay raises based on the color of their hair or the size of their shoes or whatever. Will this council commit to being fair, equitable, and have actual reasons why they give people the pay they do? Thank you.
Again, try to keep the comments, if you could, germane to what we're talking about here on the tax increase. Thank you.
My name's Charles Demick. My wife and I bought a residence at 2908 West, 5700 South in Wellsville. And I want to address a few things tonight that I think are important. One is the economy of scale. The larger the pie, the less that each should have to contribute to make the pie work. I think sometimes in government, we forget that there's an economy of scale. The more people that are here, the higher the values of the homes, the larger your pie to spend. One of the things that was brought out in the advertisement for tax increase was the competitive wages. That's the slipperiest slope I've ever seen in my life. I've owned and operated a construction company in Las Vegas. In March, we'll celebrate our 40th year in business, and it's been interesting to watch, okay? When I was a young man growing up there, the theme was we have to have competitive wages to gather the best and brightest for our government. Here's how it works out. The former county manager, I think she had a 6-year term, was paid $865,000 a year. Our school superintendent was paid this last go around $1.2 million a year, and we are, in Clark County, we are 49th in passing tests. The slippery slope is trying to pass additional money as being able to get better services. I think that we need to look at that very carefully. It's not always the money, and those that are paid the highest don't produce the best. Yolanda King was a disaster as a county manager. Our school superintendent was horrible. Now we get into such things as competitive wages for the people that are working. Our firefighter, our highest paid firefighter.
Could you kind of speed this up? Your 2 minutes is really up, so please.
Okay. Highest paid firefighter was $465,000. You know, I have no problem with the tax rate here. It's really quite simple compared to where I'm from. You know, we're residents here. We love it here. But I think that, you know, there's different ways of funding. I would propose that for some of the projects that you have coming up, do special assessments for those projects. I'm happy to contribute. You know, I'm looking at the Minden Canal.
Okay,
it has to be rebuilt.
Thank you.
I'm happy to pay for it. So
appreciate your comments.
Am I able to hook up to Joe or no?
Excuse me?
Be able to hook up so like the gentleman who presented the
no.
very first time?
We don't have that available.
Oh, it's only staff that
Yeah.
can do that? Okay, all right. In the beginning of that message, my name is Mark Seymour, Seymour. Your gentleman came up and said that Cache County is the lowest. I found out information, was going to show it. It says cachecounty.gov. It says Cache County has a 0.67 rate, which is above the state average of 0.52. And then Logan City, if anybody wants that, is 1.7, 1.1728. Basically, the other gentleman that spoke very eloquently, I think he was the second speaker on that you have an increase every year. In calling Craig McAllister's office, for 2014, there was a total of 47,000. We'll just break it even, 47,000
taxable parcels in the report. And for this year, there was 55,000 taxable parcels. It's an increase of 8,000 parcels over that time. I think we've had a good lesson on the increase of the value of our homes and our property taxes going up. And one of those to where it's increased by $900 and over that time period. And basically, we understand that it is the associated value. But like everybody else has already said, and I know this is a 2-minute deal, and not to repeat what everybody else has said, but the price of eggs was, I don't know, $3 for 18 of them. Now it's 15. And same with the butter. My wife's a baker, so that's gone up from 99 cents on a deal to about $5.99. So since I can't show anything, that'll end that.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah.
My name is Greg Merrill. I live on the south end of the county. Just the gentleman kind of already mentioned it before, but in 2020, from your website, your county budget was $63.7 million, and then in 2023 it was $94.206. There was almost a 50% increase. I just kind of want to know where that increase is coming from and who's requesting it. Also, I think more money needs to be put towards the roads, as another gentleman talked about. Some of the county roads are in pretty bad shape. And I understand I work for a state agency. I understand you have to work under certain budgets and everything. But it's getting pretty hard to pay taxes as a citizen who has a full-time job. And I understand with the retirees that they're going to be priced out of their homes and will have to probably move. So like what was said before, just incremental increase, will be better than a one-time increase. So thank you.
Thank you.
I am Josh Molitor from Logan. Logan just went through something very similar to this with their 3% increase on it. An issue that was brought up was passing the buck from property management company or landlord to renters. Renters are affected by these things very, very much. They are. Sorry, first time speaking here. I speak at Logan City Council all the time, but Logan has a 70% to 75% renters in the city limits. We only have about a 36% homeowner occupancy. But when this happens, this is across the board. Property management companies and a lot of landlords, every time they see property taxes go up, it's like Christmas to them, because they will. I mean, I've gotten the notices before. They'll tack on 25% or 25 to 50, $75 every time this happens. So I think that you need to start thinking about renters also, because they are very unrepresented here. Thank you.
I'm Paul Guyman from Petersboro, Utah. Unfortunately, most of my elected officials who I emailed here have refused to respond or engage in any way, shape, or form. This is the only avenue that we have, which you mute us during your public meetings, which is very unfortunate. As Mr. Bradfield suggested, public comment is crucial. Clearly, public comment is crucial.
Talk about the property tax.
I'm here to voice opposition to the County Council's proposed 20% tax increase. I've been a resident and taxpayer of Cache County since 2006. I presently reside in Petersboro. When I purchased my home in 2015, the county's market value of my home was $336,000 and taxed at $2,224. In 2024, the same property, no additions, has been taxed at $812,000 and taxed at $3,337. Obviously, the county, school district, and other tax entities have seen an increase in their budget due to the increasing property tax of my property. The proposed 20% tax increase seems excessive and is not sound in budgeting.
Hi, I'm Sean Thane out of Benson.
27 years old and feel like still pretty young. When I was 16, start my first job making 12 bucks an hour. You know, what I thought I'd be making now, I feel like I'd be living on top of the world. But more and more often, I see my money goes towards taxes. And at this point, looking up Logan's average salary in Logan comes out to be about $25. And you guys were saying your average household here in the county is a little over $500,000. How are you supposed to make a payment on a house? In the first place, in your average household at $25 an hour, by the time taxes get taken out of that, you're at 40 grand. And if you're looking at $500,000 house, your payment on that is going to be $3,000. At 40 grand, you're around $3,000 a month. Can't even make a payment on the household for the average house. You look up I'm sure some of you have kids and everything and whatnot. How are they supposed to feel good looking at growing up, coming into this, the world and whatnot, knowing that if I'm making the average wage, I can't even buy the average house. And then you want to add taxes on top of that. I feel you guys need to dig deep, look at what we're spending money on. There's currently a project going on down the road from us. For the school district, they're putting in a bus turnout. I'd estimate it's probably like 2,000 square feet of asphalt. It's been going on for over a month. One day, one dude shows up. Another day, maybe 5 people show up. We all know when you start a project, if your ducks aren't all in a row, it's inefficient. You show up, you do that for maybe 30 minutes, you go home. The drive time and everything going out there to Benson for these people, we're paying them money and whatnot to show up for an hour. And so I feel like we could dig deep and look at our current projects and what we're doing and find that money you guys are looking for. It's there. I know it's there. And I feel like you guys working for the people should do that before you try to do a tax increase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Stauffer. My husband and I live in a moderately priced home in Hiram. At the county's calculations in 2020, our property taxes went up 38%. In 2024, our property taxes increased 73%. If somebody on this council found some precious metal somewhere on my property, please let me know where to dig, because I don't get this 73% increase. That represents over 100% increase in 5 years. I understand that school district increases are responsible in a large part, as are the rising costs due to inflation. However, the fact remains that we on a fixed income are trying to deal with a $1,700 tax increase on top of what we paid last year. Do government and school districts ever think of cutting programs, services, or finding less expensive ways to educate children rather just to increase taxes? As a side note, the Utah State Board of Education says the number of students in the public education system will decrease over the next decade, and last in 2023 they did decrease in the state of Utah. We as citizens have to deal with doing without certain purchases, and we expect the government to do the same. And now our county government is proposing another tax increase. Now, it's just not this 20%, but Harm City, where we're from, just raised their taxes 27%. The Water District voted in a 95.73% increase, and the mosquito abatement wants an increase also. We cannot continue to sustain these kinds of increases. It is outrageous and result in older people being forced to make choices they shouldn't have to make after paying taxes and contributing to the community. I was always taught to save for a rainy day. With these continued increases, there are going to be a lot of rainy days in Cache County.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Wimpy. I live in Smithfield, lifetime resident of this county. Well, that's not true. I moved here when I was like 1.5, but close enough. share the same sentiment as a lot of people. My property taxes have already gone up, and I realize that's not all Cache County related. Every year it seems like there's a school bond. We have to say yes because it's for the kids, but our tests go down every year. As your constituents, let's not call ourselves citizens, we're your constituents. We're the people that voted you into office. We see a lower rate of return on our tax dollars year after year. As has been mentioned, the 20% increase for capital projects without any mention of what these capital projects are and how they benefit each of us. Absolutely ridiculous. Been mentioned many times, our values increase year on year, our taxes go up year on year, your budget goes up year on year. I know that this is a public comment, y'all aren't necessarily here to answer questions, but can I ask how many of y'all ran unopposed in the most recent election? I didn't figure I would get a lot of answers. That's fine, we can all, that's good. And that's, again, not necessarily on you guys, that's on us as citizens to allow y'all to run unopposed. I can't help but wonder if you had run opposed in close elections, if we would be looking at adding 20% to every citizen's tax bill. Thank you.
I'm Jay Bankhead. I've been a Valley's resident my whole life. And I agree with pretty much everything that's been said here. I think there's a couple points that I could add. One of them is, when I was going to high school, we had the same roads we have today. And yet the growth, I think, has doubled since I was in high school, which means all that green belt, everything that was in green belt that has now been developed is taxed at quite a bit higher rate. So one of the things that I think needs to happen in this valley is we need to charge developers a true impact fee. If we're going to have development happen, they need to pay, and the people coming in need to pay, not the citizens that are already here, need to pay for the true cost of development. And that's roads, sewer, and power. And I guess point number two, as a business owner, we struggle just like everybody else with everybody's increased costs. And as I drive around the valley, one of my most favorite places to see when there's a city council meeting is Weston, Idaho. You drive through there, and it's a little shack that everybody visits in or has city council in. And that's the way government used to be. Unfortunately, we've gotten used to having the best of everything in government. And it's not on you guys, it's just as a culture, we've somehow decided that government has to have the best of everything. If you look in the county, and whether it's Logan or the county, the best buildings are government buildings. The best vehicles are government vehicles. The best equipment's government vehicles, or government equipment. As a business owner, we can't have always the best. We've sometimes got to go with used or an auction. And I would ask the county to look at that and say, maybe instead of building a brand new building like you did in Hiram, we could have got an abandoned shed and refurbished. Or instead of having that big giant road grader that Kevin drives around in the parade, maybe we could go with a few years older model. So that was the two bits I had.
My name's Keegan Garrity, and it's kind of an interesting situation to be in. In a few months, I'll be on the council. So I wanted to, first off, if you raise the taxes, I want to request you do that before I'm on there so we can blame you. But as I've been listening to everyone, y'all are in a clapping mood, so I hope I don't kill the momentum. I really appreciate everyone coming out, and I really value the time spent and the things that I heard. So these notes are as much for myself as the whole council, but from what I'm hearing, I did appreciate the explanation that it's not a 20% increase on your gross. If you're paying $1,000 a year, it doesn't go to $1,200. So I appreciate that it's just the county portion, and average would be about $70 per person. So I think that's something to keep in mind as we all go forward. As I look through the last years too, the citizens of Cache County have voted on the RAPS tax, which increased the taxes to go towards recreation. We've voted in an open spaces bond to preserve our open spaces. We voted recently to increase a bond for the building of Cache County schools. So I don't think it's that people are just opposed to taxes in general. I think based on what I'm hearing, it's that we want to see what that's going towards. So the notes that I have is that I have seen our county make improvements with efficiency, and I think we can do a better job of publicizing when those happen, because they are happening, and I do appreciate the service that people are rendering. I think another thing is that, from what I'm hearing, is we want to see incremental increases. When I'll be going up for re-election in 4 years, and I know it will be very tempting to not raise taxes that year and talk about how I've never done that, but I think it's important for everyone's sake that we do this along the way so no one gets hit with something big. So I just want to say I appreciate that, and I think there's ways we can improve. Thanks, Dave. I'll get my chance to be behind a mic and talk all I want soon, so I'll wrap it up here. But I just want to say I appreciate the service that you guys are doing. I appreciate the consideration, and I think we live in a great county. It does cost money. Things have gone up, and I think we can be wise about this. Thanks.
Daisy Quiroz, born and raised here in Cache County. Been a homeowner for 8 years. Daisy Quiroz. As a resident, not as a council-elect, I want to see transparency. When these things come, I want to see what's actually where it's going to. Where's the money going down? Drill down on that 20%. As been stated over and over again, those increments would be important, and I know that people want to grow, but when you put it out there just like that, it freaks us all out, and we want to know, and we want to dig into it. I just want to see the numbers and support what really needs to be supported. Pivot on the percentage. Why does it have to be that 20%? Why can't we decide something 5%, 2% on these things and then cut off the things? I just think that 20% is too much, and we could do with whatever, less than that, way less than that. And I look around, being born and raised here, I see all the new developments in this town, and I think to myself, why don't we take that into account of all those property taxes that are going to come in, most likely from people not even here in the county. So why, I don't know, maybe that's just a future thing, but I think that might help with being able to do that. And just like I said, I've been a property taxpayer for 8 years. I've been owning my home for 8 years. I look to this at 20%, and I think to myself, 8 years from now, what is that going to be? What am I going to be paying? I'm going to be paying triple and double, and then I'm going to be at the same spot as people who have been here 30, 40 years owning a home, at the same spot as them, being on a fixed income and not being able to pay my property taxes. Thank you.
Trent Barkdale. I am not a native here. Give you guys a quick, maybe different perspective. I moved here from the greater Phoenix area in Gilbert. Before that, I was in Detroit, suburbs of Detroit, and before that, around Kentucky. So I moved around a lot, paid property taxes in different states. I just want to raise a warning. I don't want to see this happen. I don't want to see big jumps like this. Near Dearborn, Michigan, they pay an exorbitant amount of property taxes. It's ridiculous. And this place has been the favorite place that we've landed, and we want to stay here for a long time. My dream is to pay off my home one day, and I don't want to be beholden to the property tax game after I pay off that home. I want to own that free and clear and actually feel like I own something in this. In my household, when we're facing price increases, the first question we ask is, where can we cut in our budget? And I expect that from you guys as well. I want your first question to be, where can we cut? And I want you to show that to us. Where have you cut? Where are you looking to cut before you raise our taxes? I don't look to my neighbor and ask him if he can give me more money to increase my household budget. I'll give you one example that you can cut, and I don't know if this affects Cache County specifically or the Logan Council specifically, but I think you guys are pretty tied together somewhat. But just yesterday I saw in the library they're hosting Tales of a Drag Queen, open mic, live, uncensored, free to the public. Okay. Well, the people with whom you rub shoulders, we should hold these people accountable. This is not where I want my property taxes to go. It's a slippery slope, and by show of hands, who all knew about this? Very few people. Very few people knew about this. So there's one example of a budget cut, maybe for Logan City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pat Morrill, and I live on the south end of town. And what I came to look for, what I came to hear, was I want a specificity as to where that 20% is going. And the presentation left me lacking. There's broad categories, but there's nothing specific, which leaves me to be suspicious of really what's going on. And I do echo what other people have said, but what I want to know going out of here is what's the next step. What's the next step before this doesn't get implemented or it does get implemented?
Thank you.
My name's James Balls. I'm from Hyde Park, Utah. Was born there, well, born in the valley. I had a comment that I don't think's repeated. We talked about incremental tax increases. Well, I would like to see incremental tax decreases. A lot of us assume that tax increases are inevitable. We have a tax rate, and we don't have to raise taxes. We can look at reducing taxes as well. And I'd like to, and I don't know this, but I'd like to know the last time property taxes were actually reduced as opposed to increased. Thank you.
I'm Joanne Bennett. I want to congratulate all of you for coming. I've been coming to the council meetings for 4 years, and I can't tell you how many times I was the only citizen here. The room had people, but not citizens. They were county employees. So I just want to congratulate you on all coming out and taking part. And maybe you can come some other times and we can avoid some of these problems we have right now.
Any other comments? Okay. You can come in and sit down right over here in line there. That'd be great.
Kelly Nelson from Wellsville. I have a voice box issue, so please bear, okay? Diddles to everybody up here and this young lady here. I fear for me and my wife the next 10 years because currently, well, 5 years ago we were paying $175 a year to rent our home, okay? We paid it off 10 years ago. We now pay rent on our property and our homes, okay? I'm scared to death of what it's going to be in 10 years. My wife and I retired 3.5 years ago. It scares me, okay? Sir, I appreciate your comments coming in, but I will never vote myself a tax increase. The Water Conservancy District and the Open Space Bond, okay? I believe we had 22,000 voters vote for that, okay? When you have 1/3 of the registered voters voting in a bond, that's not right. So I will never vote myself a tax increase. Please think of some type of tax graduating decrease as people get older. It changes your life. It does. So thank you.
My name's Kevin McKinnon. I'm a California transplant. I got from California. I strongly oppose this 20% all-in-one tax increase. Being in California, as you know, taxes are just crazy out there, and they increase them so much that we couldn't even afford to live there anymore. We thought, oh, moving to Cache Valley, beautiful, beautiful area that we could live here. I just retired, and now I'm looking at my SMUD. They added more money, taxes, everybody. I mean, I'm getting hit left and right, and I just retired, and now I'm going to be priced out of Cache Valley. COVID, I'm a small business. I still am working a little bit, but I lost more than half of my business due to COVID. And it really made, knowing that the taxes keep going up is such a financial burden. And some of the gentlemen that talked about, the gentleman from Detroit, I mean, if you do have to increase taxes, yeah, we want full transparency. We want to see what you cut first, and then address possibly increasing taxes. You know, so it's just tough out there, and I'd just like you to consider that. And thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Martin Whiteley. I'm a resident of North Logan. I've been in Cache Valley about 23 years. I spent many years living in Europe and paid quite a bit of tax there. I heard, again, this gentleman say, what I've heard in this meeting is that there are a lot of people on fixed incomes and they cannot afford a tax hike. Not that they're happy to pay taxes for these developments. I am a person that is opposed to government imposing taxes for recreational facilities or things like that. I think it should be run by private enterprise. You take away, so they talked about the RAP tax and that what people voted for. To me, that should come through private. You know, my North Logan is proposing like a rec center and taxing us to provide that. My daughter, Jenny Whiteley, ran for office in council in North Logan, and the people she talked to could not afford the tax increase. Like for the rec center, we had people up on the hill saying they would be happy to pay it. Maybe they could afford the $20. My husband's business has been almost decimated by COVID and climate change theories, and he translates German to English and all these international issues. So I thought it was absurd to get a notice that we're considering raising our taxes 20%. I don't think it's necessary. I think we need to look for cuts, and maybe people have to get used to not having government provide all these things. Maybe it should be directed to private enterprise and communities just working together and people not expecting so much to come from government. We've trained people to be dependent on government instead of themselves.
Okay, just who here is still would like to speak? 1, 2. Okay. We go for that. Is that okay?
I've been waiting. So my name is Zachary Thurgood. I'm here from Newton, Utah. I've been waiting to hear today for somebody to bring this up, but I guess it's going to be me. Seems like every 2 or 3 months there's always a not conspiracy, but an issue in Cache County in regards to waste, fraud, abuse. Is there anything that is being brought up in regards to tackle this issue? Or, you know, looking at mismanagement, favoritism, various things like that, that I feel that we have not brought up here in this meeting today. That's my statement.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't do a lot of public speaking, so sorry if I get a little nervous, but I pretty much agree with basically everything that's been said here today. Katie Baird, hi, hello. I pretty much agree with everybody that's come before me, but the one thing that I haven't heard yet is just this. So our nation just experienced like a landslide election, and I think the main reason why the man was elected was because everybody was just really hopeful that things would turn around, that we could begin to afford stuff again, that eggs weren't $10 a dozen, you know. Thanks. So before we go ahead and move forward with voting in any kind of tax increases, I would just encourage the council to please just give us all time to like see what happens. Because this 20% or whatever it ends up being, once it's in, it's not going to go away. It typically doesn't. So if we could just move forward and just recalibrate, see what the next year or two is going to bring, and then maybe revisit this, it'd be great. Maybe you don't need the 20%, maybe you'll get it back, and hopefully we will too. So that's all I'd like to say.
Okay, anyone else that would like to speak? Okay, I take a motion to close the public hearing. Move and second it that we close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion's unanimous.
Can I say something?
Yeah, hang on just 1 second. First of all, we would like to thank everybody.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, then you say it.
I
They've heard enough
just
from
want
me.
to thank all of you for being here, seriously, and thank you for all of your input. And we are considering different things, but thank you. Thank you for expressing everything that you've done. So thank you.
Yes, that's basically, I'll reiterate that and appreciate everyone coming out. A lot of your points and everything, very, very valid. We understand. The 20% is not a finite number that it's got to be that. It's just that when we put that number out, that was our maximum that we could get to. I hope and pray that we don't have to even get near that. But as far as all the ambitions for us to cut inside before we start digging into that, we are doing that. We're doing that actually quite feverishly, digging into those things to try to find everything that we can to basically where, things have shifted as far as responsibilities, all these type of things. We're trying to do everything that we can to make sure that we cut those. There is a little bit misnomer out there, and I heard that several times, that, for example, there was a spike in our income during the early 20s. Do you guys remember what that was? A thing called ARPA money that the federal government sends to us that we all get to pay for forever. And that's what was sent to us, and that's where we could use it for certain projects that were specifically affected by the COVID. And so that's what that spike was, and so that's over and done, and so that is not in any way part of any kind of income anymore. Those projects are being finished out there, and they were very fine. That was very specific as to what they could be used for, and so those are done. The other thing is that when we talk about everyone had their home, basically their home taxes, they all went up. Yes, they did. Mine went up greatly too. But we did have some tax shifts occur within the commercial and home appraisal, or excuse me, the money taxes. For example, some values during the COVID and those years, all of a sudden we did have some values of commercial come down, which then threw the burden of the tax over to the homeowners to make sure you maintain the exact tax rate. For example, if you needed 15 million and we got more from commercial when they were doing really good, then all of a sudden when they came down their values, that shift of burden went to the homeowners, and because their values went up. And we're actually seeing a little bit of that correction. Commercial is strengthening, And we're starting to see hopefully a little bit of that shift now being taken from homeowners back to the commercial side for their taxing. And so all those things, we've almost had the perfect storm. When COVID hit, it knocked everybody, and it caused quite a acceleration of inflation and everything, and we're still reeling from some of that. But in reality, we are digging in, and these next few meetings, as we're talking about budget and getting our 2025 budget all aligned and put together, we will be, again, we'll be digging in and fighting for every penny that we can. A lot of the projects that we have specific for that money, a lot of those are maintenance issues. There are some capital projects we've actually toned down, and we've even been cutting, and we're still cutting a lot of the big capital projects because we can't afford them. We're actually cutting a lot of those back just because we can't. And what that does is almost kick the can down the road. Because for one, the roads don't always last as long as they should, and we're having to make them last longer. There's just a lot of issues, things like that, that's occurring. But we are doing the best that we can. Again, if you don't like it, then please vote us out. But we are doing our best we can. But is there any other comments that would like to be made? I know Sandy's got one. And if you'd like to, Nolan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to again, thank you all for being here. And this is my first time having to go through something like this. It's hard to hear some things, but I also wanted to correct an information that several people said, and just so that you all understand the way the certified tax rate works. If the taxes we get from everyone equals $100, then everybody's values of your home doubles. Our tax rate goes down by half so that we still get $100. That's how it's supposed to work. So that if you look at your actual mill levy, it has gone down every single year as your values have gone up. So I just want to make sure you understand that if your value of your home goes up, we can't get more money from that, a higher percentage of that value without this hearing. So just so that information is out there, that mill levy has been going down every year, a lower percentage of your value of your homes. So it's very complex. There's the school districts, there's the municipalities. It's all complex and moves together. But as your home has increased in value, it hasn't automatically increased the amount of money that the county gets for your taxes.
Chair?
Nolan.
Thanks for the comments. I've written them all down, considering them, but some people ask for specifics. The state legislature has indicated that we have to put a school resource officer in every school. That's an increase of a cost to us. Please look around and look at the crime that's going on in our community right now. That is a cost to us. If you ask our sheriff or if our county attorney what they're experiencing, for those of you, if you don't read Cache Valley Daily, read it. It'll shock the living daylights out of you of the crime that is coming into our community. And we are trying, if you look at our county attorney's office, they are relentless in prosecuting sex crimes. Many counties aren't even looking at that. They're just letting them slide by. So we are trying as a county to try to do those things that are for your safety. We are trying. That school resource officer was an unfunded mandate. We were told we had to do that. We can't find the money to do it unless we start looking at other things. So we do sit here and try to do our best of what's going on there. We are very cognizant of costs, and we do look at things to cut. We have tried to cut many things, and so thank you for your input. Like I say, I've wrote them all down, and so we're trying to help in those areas to keep this a great community and also a safe community. So thank you.
Slight comment?
I just wanted to make sure that the next step question was answered, which would be a couple more council meetings between now and the end of the year by when we have to, by state code, have the new budget adopted. So there's a couple more council meetings in between then and now where we will continue to work with everything on what to cut, what rate we would end up settling on, et cetera. A lot of work to come. Thank you for your comments.
Will there be notices of the final rate?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. There'll be, as a matter of fact, every county council meeting will be talking a lot about that, and there will be notices for that. And it'll be, excuse me?
And will there be public comment?
There is always public comment. Every one of us reach out to your county council members, so.
Please.
And, okay, at this point, we're gonna be doing a whole bunch of other stuff. If you wanna, if you're gonna gather, we'll have to probably shut the doors to kind of keep it quiet in here, unless you wanna hear what we're gonna be talking about next.
So Robert in the red.
Does anyone need a break besides Kathy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
They dated his sister. I think that was targeted. He didn't like it.
Thank you.
Politicking.
Figured this would be,
Good seeing you. Thank you.
I'm glad too.
Please.
Blake Park.
Yes.
Robert's Rules of Order need to exist in these kind of meetings. Robert's Rules of Order, the applause is totally illegal.
It is.
We have to start there, not shut it down midway.
I understand.
Thank you.
It usually just kind of jumps up.
Intimidating to a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yes.
But it's one of those things that you get a few radicals, they jump in. Yeah, I should have said something. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know, sitting here listening
Should have said that.
you know,
That's sexual, right? So now.
For a real fast.
Don't get caught in the hall.
Perpetrators from out of the valley.
Yeah, maybe I'll just get up later.
So we can save a bunch of money by stop building parks.
Okay. I hate to say goodbye, but I will. As soon as they leave.
Why does every high school have to have its own football field, Roger?
congratulations. You guys all that's behind you.
Build zone?
No, not the event center. No, he was talking about another one. He was talking about the jails and the remodel here and administration building. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's see, let's go back down, and if we can, let's go ahead and jump over here to the 10A, the presentation of the ARPA. Alma, we appreciate your work on that. Working with the federal government has probably got to be enlightening.
Nobody wants to stay in here about.
Somebody knew we would need children.
David.
Well, I found the stash. I get these from my friend, and all of a sudden I go down and I look in the drawer, and Mike in the drawer, and he found them all.
Let me know when we need more.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know who brought us chocolate.
I did.
David.
Good.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, David.
Micah, I found them.
Totally needed for tonight, thank you.
Who would like one? They're good.
Brittany.
Throw that far?
I get that far? I got one more. Anyone else?
Did the baby.
Okay. That keeps them from going in me. That's fine.
Too late for me. I ate mine. Okay.
I got more. Holding on the bag, as a matter of fact.
Sorry.
No, you're doing great. Appreciate the patience.
No, it's all good. So you should have some information in your packets, and I'll refer to that. There should be a list of possible ARPA projects on one page, a summary of the building and grounds on another page, and then looks like a table or a spreadsheet, possible ARPA projects, and I will refer to each of those here in just a few minutes. So thank you for all that you're doing and your patience with me and the finance department. This has really been a long process. I've been involved with this ARPA project the whole 3 years that I've been here. Just started my 4th year, and that was my first big assignment is, here's all the ARPA stuff, please learn it. Hopefully this will be the last presentation that I give to you, at least as far as projects go. We still need to continue to report and still need to continue to spend all of the money. But hopefully this is the last one that we're going to present to you.
Quick little recap for some of them that are still here. ARPA.
ARPA is American Rescue Plan Act. It was it's from the federal government. Cache County received 2 tranches of money. It was not quite $25 million total. Of that, $10 million could be used on government services. We have reported most of that money. It's been used up. It's in projects. It has to be obligated or spent by obligated or spent by December 31st of 2024. So if we're not going to be able to spend it, it has to be obligated and put into a contract, and then we have 25 and until December 31st, 2026 to be able to spend that. And this was all related to COVID. The money outside of the 10 million has to be put into eligible projects, and the U.S. Treasury has lots of information, pages and pages of federal code to be able to make sure that it's put into eligible projects. So when somebody asks, can ARPA money be used for this? Well, it depends. We have to look at each one of them individually. And so it's been a really long process, and I appreciate your patience and your help in this long process. So this evening I'm coming with the last little bit of money that needs to be put into projects. These are all eligible projects. And so last Friday I presented to the Appropriations Committee the ideas, and they recommended some ideas go to the council, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I do want to ask, how do I say this? We're getting to the end of the year. We're down to, just a few weeks. And so I would ask, if at all possible, after you are presented the projects and any discussion that you have, if it is possible to approve those projects this evening so that we can start working on them, in getting bids, in working on contracts, if it is able to get into either spend that money or get it into a contract. Because I think the last couple of weeks of December, it's going to be very difficult to spend the money or get it into a contract. Of course, the money, if you approve it or whatever you approve, needs to go into the budget. I will start working on those that you approve, and start working on contracts or getting bids. We won't spend anything until the budget is approved. I want you to know and understand that, of course. So there is $408,487 left to put into eligible projects. The total ARPA project request was $464,730. I presented this to the Appropriations Committee, and basically, in a nutshell, and I'll explain it in a little bit more detail in a minute, they said fund everything but reduce, and I'll talk about this in a minute, the parking lot lighting project, and reduce that from their request of $97,000 and reduce it to just a little over $74,000. So these are the projects that were presented to the Appropriations Committee just last Friday. Building and Grounds has requested security cameras to upgrade those, to add some more, and that totals $29,000. They want to do some automated door locks on this facility. That's around $5,000. And to put some security film on the doors, which would present somebody breaking the doors or the glass in the doors and entering in, and that's just shy of $5,000. The Building and Grounds has also asked for physical vehicle barriers so that a vehicle can't drive onto the sidewalk and drive into either this building, I know there's stairs, but you never know what they can do, or the other building, which is on the main floor, main level, and that's about $10,000. Building and Grounds is also requesting some lighting, and this was one reduced. It was originally $97,000, and they suggested reducing it to just over $74,000. The Recorder's Office is kind of behind in being able to complete their work. They're mandated to upgrade the maps, and in order to do that, for the next 2 years, the Recorder's Office is requesting $236,000. This would be reported, if approved, reported to the U.S. Treasury. That seems like a lot of money, and if they're not able to use it, by reporting it to the U.S. Treasury during the quarterly reports, it becomes obligated. If there is an obligated, either through reporting it to the U.S. Treasury or putting into a contract, if that money is not spent, it can be used in another eligible project that has been contracted, that's already in process. You can't do new ones, but it could go towards another project. An example would be Public Works has a significant amount of projects. Some of them may come over budget. You could move that money around if it's already obligated, if that makes sense. The Clerk's Office has also requested HVAC enhancement out at the Ballot Center. When I presented to the Appropriations Committee, it was for $50,000. We got some better numbers, and it's closer to $25,000. During the Appropriations Committee IT, they did request to complete a countywide site networking system. In order to complete that, they want to ask for another $5,000 because it's costing a little bit more. And then also in conjunction with that, they've reduced this amount to be able to get some spare parts to provide redundancy in that county networking site project, and that's at $18,000. So all of these on the screen, and you do have those printouts in your packet if you can't see the screen. So the left to award amount is $408,487, and the total request was $464,000. This is a spreadsheet. You also have a copy of that. So in the left column has the requests or the projects, the original request to the Appropriations Committee, and then the recommendation from the Appropriations Committee to the Council tonight is you will see that the lighting in the parking lot about in the middle of the spreadsheet is reduced from $97,000 to just over $74,000. The HVAC was reduced from $50,000 to $25,000, and the IT spare parts was, for redundancy, is reduced from 27,000 to 18,000. That comes up with a total recommendation from the Appropriations Committee of the left to award amount of $408,487. Any questions on any of those projects or the Appropriations Committee recommendation to the council?
Questions, anybody? Pretty thorough. I know it was vetted in the Appropriations Committee.
And I think these projects, I mean, this money's got to be used up, and nothing comes to mind that would be of a better use that's eligible
It is eligible.
than these. So, you want a motion?
You bet.
I'd make a motion then that we approve the recommended appropriations, or the Appropriations Committee recommendations for the balance of the ARPA funds to be contracted by the end of the year at $408,487.
Moved and seconded that we support the Appropriations Committee request, or their request that the ARPA funds be spent, the remaining ARPA funds be spent accordingly with what we've heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you.
Get it done.
Thank you.
Get it done so you can have a Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, it's not over yet. We still got to,
I suspect you were working yesterday because you texted me to show me the list of.
just for a very short time, very short time.
Thank you for all the
I think there was some other people in finance that were working longer than I did.
They were. I heard that.
all of you.
I am sending out the weekly reports. Hopefully it's
Appreciate that.
making sense. I will in the future. I had a question. I can't remember who asked me. We are obligating into contracts, and so in future weekly reports, I will tell you what's obligated, how much it is, and give you the contract number so that you know that it is contracted. The amount that's still left to spend, I'm working feverishly with the projects or the department heads so that those projects are spent out by the end of the year if they're not in a contract. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Alma.
And may it never happen again.
Yeah.
Please.
Are we able to pay any of your salary out of ARPA for the amount of time that you've put into this?
Yeah, that is possible, but the money's all obligated.
I didn't know if we did that before.
It's all obligated and
Well,
somewhere
I
else.
didn't know if we did that beforehand when we first started doing all of this, so, okay.
It could have been, but I think the projects are really important.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alma.
Okay, at this point, let's head back to 8B on the annual budget. Let's have some dialogue, discussion there, and it's kind of open dialogue. We've heard quite a bit tonight, which I think there's a lot of it that was very, very good, but there was a lot that wasn't quite in line with as far as what's actually is happening.
Not this anymore.
But I know how it's hitting them is pretty dramatic, so.
Thank you, Brittany.
And Wes, if you'll kind of give kind of a snapshot with what the Appropriations Committee talked about and.
Brittany? Right here, to the right.
Yeah, we're down 2 mics, just in case everybody knows they're not working. We're doing without on our shoestrings.
Did you want mine?
Oh,
That's well used over there.
I'll make sure that you're.
We can pass it, we can also pass them.
It's flashing, that means it died.
Why don't we take, yeah, go ahead and we'll take one of them at least. Has this ever been green?
your work through a whole meeting?
If you're ready, Wes, go ahead and.
So we've given you a list of the amendments from tentative budget to what we worked through in appropriations. When it comes to the tentative budget, you'll notice this figure of 7.163 million of a deficit in what we got to just get to that kind of that baseline budget that the executive provided. I've put up along the top some different headers. You'll notice, different percentage sales tax versus different percentage of property tax. And you'll also notice over a 9-month period what sales tax that would generate, as well as what property tax it would generate next year based on those percentages. So if you look at that first column, if we did a 30% or 0.30% sales tax and implemented that towards public safety, and also did a 10% property tax, it would generate 8.3 million in revenue. And as far as total changes before capital, we've got that 2.451 million. Those are changes that have come in that we've implemented since the tentative budget was handed over to the council and received. And so you'll notice the amendments have basically everything from that 7.1 to include total changes of the 2.451 million, as well as changes for capital transfers. And if you're to implement the sales tax and the property tax, you'll notice this change in fund balance. So of the 3.9 that we would be using in fund balance this next year, in that first column, 2.6 of it would basically go towards capital.
Yeah, true.
There we go.
Thank you.
One job.
Couldn't see it.
So basically, you're seeing in a lot of these columns the same numbers, right? What's different is the revenue based on the option that you select. The capital, we've budgeted 2.649. We noticed a few things in the capital that we'll talk through when we talk through the amendments, if you want to go through those tonight. But again, just keep in mind also, with any sales tax you implement, there are 3 months of revenues that we're not going to be able to capture next year because it won't go into effect until April 1st. So that's kind of, again, just a high-level look at the different scenarios based on what you've asked us to include for market, merit, and many other changes, environmental health. And again, we can go through those.
Now you say they're all the ones, the discussed changes have all been made in the baseline budget amount.
So the baseline budget was the tentative budget that the executive handed to you.
Oh, I look up there and it says we're a negative 7.1 in the baseline budget.
So we were planning on, just to get to our baseline budget, no capital, no employee increases, just to get to that kind of that baseline budget, we would have to use 7.1 million in fund balance.
Yeah, I remember that part now.
So, Wes, is the 2.451 everything that's in this document right here?
Correct.
Okay. As well
as capital.
The capital's different.
Capital is in that document as well.
Is it dispersed through all the departments?
So it is not, capital is 2.6, it's the next line down.
2.6, that's this document. This one's the 2.4.
But capital's changed, right?
Yeah.
Dirk,
So
didn't
let's
you send
talk
us an
through
update?
those. Do you want to talk through just the few changes?
Dirk.
Because it hasn't changed a lot,
That one.
and it's actually decreased.
Hey, before we go there, can we talk about
Yeah.
sales tax? How flexible in putting where and what that does? Because I'm sitting here and I don't think as a council that we're gonna get all that sales tax. We've got communities that are looking for it, so we have to discuss that. So that's saying that it all goes to the county, so I think we need to talk about where and how that gets applied and can that change year by year?
So part of the information that I've emailed out, and I think, I don't know if you've all had a chance to review it, but when it comes to what the property tax different municipalities are charging, you know, I tried to.
Sales tax.
Yeah, so I know you're talking sales tax, but what I'm suggesting there is that some of the municipalities might have to increase their own property tax to address their own local needs when it comes to transportation, public safety, and other needs they have.
But at the same time, some of that sales tax is coming from those municipalities because of their businesses in it.
And they do get, so this is just specific to the 1/4% that we're talking about. Understand a lot of those municipalities, they're receiving sales tax based on, so the state divides sales tax to municipalities 50% based on population, 50% based on point of sale. And so in an unincorporated county, we have 7,000, 8,000 residents. You know, our sales tax that goes into our municipal services fund just isn't near comparable to what those municipalities are getting. They have much more flexibility when it comes to their budget dollars because, again, their budget dollars are oftentimes tied to sales tax, which makes up a much larger portion of their budget.
Yeah.
So,
No, they wouldn't.
so in,
Trenton, you know, outer lying areas, Paradise.
Do they have to,
Based on population, it's redistributed but not collected.
Yeah.
But they all drive on county
but
roads.
do they have to maintain their roads?
Within the cities, they do.
But not all the county roads.
so they do within their own city. Which a lot of that COG dollars could be, you know, I can't speak because I haven't dove into all the detail there, but we do have the COG fund where we collect sales tax and then we're distributing it out to many of those municipalities for transportation.
But that still didn't answer.
So,
It's supposed to go to transportation or public safety, right?
so if you commit it to public safety, the point I'm making with that, okay, with the change in the legislature and the law, if you use it, commit it to public safety, we already are expending in excess of what that sales tax will generate. And so instead of using property tax dollars, you can now shift those property tax dollars to another use. I'm going to let Brittany kind of go through the different changes. Does that, yeah. I don't know if you want to go through all those. There's quite a few.
40?
Quite a few changes there, but if you want to go through them, each one we could. Then I'm going to pull up kind of sales tax based on different municipalities so you can see that.
I know, but I thought there were only 40 amendments. They're over here.
So to answer the capital question,
Let's see, we've got,
on the capital list that was presented in appropriations on Friday, when I was entering in those proposed capital projects to be funded into the amendment, I noticed there was a vehicle from the assessor's office that was included to be funded, but the assessor's office is in the tax administration fund, not the general fund. And so we moved that $50 out of the general fund and to be funded from the tax administration fund instead of the general fund.
You say assessing and collecting.
Yes.
Fund that there,
Yes.
so.
And then the second item was the fire district had included their lease payments for their vehicles for next year in their capital request, but that goes to our debt service fund. And so there's $31,500 for their lease payments that is not included in the capital projects because it is a debt service payment instead. So that is the difference between the capital amount in the amendment sheet and what was given to appropriations on Friday.
Can I just get those changes so we can update the list?
Yes. Are there any other from appropriations? So I added all of the capital. We added all of the payroll changes.
Can you go to those specifically, please, Brittany? Because we talked about them, but we never actually got real numbers.
Yes, the payroll ones, absolutely. Okay, so the payroll ones are towards the back. And they're going to start on page 18, at the very, very bottom of page 18.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is just to take care of all of the end of orientation increases that happened this year between when we first pulled payroll estimates in May until this point this year. So these are increases that took effect in 2024 that will need to be carried forward into 2025's budget. So that's amendment number 115.
Okay, is
I'm
the
sorry.
total on that, the 49,000? There's a, like, what's the total hit to the general fund?
So the total hit to the general fund is going to be about halfway down the amendment on page 19. That appropriated fund balance from the Fund 100 is going to be that $219,170. And then also we have to add fire because we had a budget amendment request. I think it's budget amendment number 4 to move the fire district into the general fund.
So we're talking about 270,000? About?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just trying to keep some of this clear. Okay.
And then amendment number 116 are the 2 full-time attorneys positions that were added that started in 2024 that were missed for the 2025 budget. Number 117 is and so this is just from the manpower request sheet that you guys have seen from Wes. We just went down the list. So if we funded them, this is the request for the IT seasonal interns. Number 118 is for Public Works, additional seasonal hours. 119 is for,
And that was adding it back in, right?
yes,
Okay, because it was in the budget and somehow it kind of got.
it was reduced. So this would be to make it what the original request was. Yes.
Yeah.
And that number does not include anything for the airport.
Well, so the airport does their own request and it's later.
But it's not coming from the general fund.
No. And then number 119 is the engineering surveyor position, and that position is split 50-50 between the general fund and municipal services. In appropriations committee meeting on Friday, Matt said that allocation was probably fair. Once that position starts, then we could kind of reassess to where their work is getting being performed. Number 120 is the additional request for the chief deputy recorder. And in appropriations, we discussed that a mapper position could be promoted to the chief.
Go back.
Okay.
I thought we had a motion that was not going to be part of it. I thought the surveyor portion was out.
So my understanding, based on listening back to the recording, again, you can decide to pull it, whatever, but my understanding was included, but you were going to talk about the hiring process and who would maybe serve on that committee to hire them. So.
Now, that was talked about in appropriations committee.
Yes.
But not in the previous council, we talked about that. I thought that was one of the amendments that was taken out.
But you were going to discuss it more
the position.
So you put it back in though,
That we would bring it to this meeting to discuss.
okay,
it.
because that's got to be discussed. We got to,
That it would be brought to
something's
this
got to,
meeting to talk
something's
as
got
a
to
full
change
council.
in that portion of it.
All of this has
Yeah,
to be discussed.
these amendments have not been approved yet, so they are not in the budget at all. These are just requests that have been made or proposals for you to review. So number 120, we talked about in Appropriations Committee that a mapper could be promoted to Chief Deputy Recorder, and then the mapper position be eliminated. And so this would be the dollar amount that would be required to do that. Number 121 is the seasonal interns, but those will be paid by ARPA funds because you guys just passed that. So that is no effect on the general fund appropriated use of fund balance. Then number 122 is the backgrounds position part-time in the sheriff's office. In appropriations, the sheriff said he would need about $10,000, so that has been reduced to the $10,000 he said he needed. The number 123 is the additional part-time hours needed in the fire department. Number 124 is the to move the part-time appraiser trainee in the assessor's office to a full-time position. So you'll see that the part-time budget is decreasing and then the full-time budget is increasing.
That's tax administration.
Yes, and that's tax administration, assessing and collecting fund. And then we have the number 125 and 126 are the airport requests, which are funded by the airport fund balance and not the general fund. And so he needs a full-time person and some additional part-time hours to keep up with our 139 certification. And then number 127 is the market and merit adjustments that we talked about in appropriations. The market for the STEP plan for the public safety officers in law enforcement, and the 2% increase for, up to 2% increase for the non-law enforcement public safety employees.
Did we get a bottom line on that? And I actually was hoping we could have those two amounts split. Like,
okay.
It'd be really nice to have. You can?
Yeah, we can do that.
That would be really helpful.
We do that. It'll take a little bit, but yeah.
It'd be really helpful to have those split and to have a total with the salaries and then the benefits on those, so we can really take a look at how we go through those. Okay, thank you.
So the total effect on the general fund is the $1,095,100 plus the $8,000 transfer for the CJC.
Wait just a minute. So
That's on page 22.
the 1,095,000 and then the. what's
And then the $8,000 for the transfer to the CJC
what about
comes from the general fund.
45,000?
The $45,000 is municipal services. And then the $52,000 is the tax admin or the assessing and collecting fund. And then this one we didn't have enough time to break out into detail, so we will have to update this amendment. But we wanted it in there so that you guys knew the bottom line to the general fund. We need to update the health insurance adjustments for the costs on now that we know what the health insurance is going to be for next year. We just need to update those numbers. So we do have totals, but we didn't get to break it out by department, but we were able to get it by fund.
So I saw the email that people have to do their open enrollment by the 22nd.
Yes.
So we have a firm total or firmish total by next week?
Yeah, I would refer to
Depending
that.
on what plan they pick?
So they have a couple options. And I wish
Yes.
Amy was here to kind of talk through those, but there are two options for them, both a traditional HSA plan.
So we'll get a firmer number by the end of this month, we think, depending on the choices that are.
So I've not,
Firmer meaning a more clear line of what per department based on their choice.
So understand too, that I originally put an estimate with health insurance in there into the different departments.
It was pretty
I
high.
don't know which plan they will choose. And so some of that 500,000, again, a lot of it could even go unspent.
Yep.
I just don't know yet, what they're gonna choose, and so I'm trying to include an amount in the budget
to make sure we have enough in there to be, whatever goes unspent, you know, again, my intent would be to come to you the end of next year and say, let's move this towards capital projects if it goes, you know, these one-time monies.
So you're looking at this adds 730,000, but that could change.
And that's across a bunch of different funds too. So that's not all general fund.
Yeah, that top line, that 639 is the general fund amount. And then 128, we put it in here so you guys could see the bottom line, but it was discussed in appropriations that the only elected officials that would get an increase potentially would be the recorder to match the clerk auditor position, and the treasurer to match the assessor's wages. And so we put that in there so you could see what that would look like. The treasurer is in Fund 150, so the recorder is the only one that would take effect to the general fund. Yes, so if that does not get passed, where the elected official salaries get approved by the council by resolution, if that's not approved, then this amendment would be eliminated.
So I'm confused. Why is there council, numbers on?
Without any increase to the council negative.
Yes, so in the tentative budget, there were...
So, yeah, so the amounts that were in the resolution
Oh, that's right.
lower than what I had estimated in the tentative. So it's actually a decrease we found.
to match the resolution. And then number 130 is just, if all of these amendments are accepted, this would be the effect on the allocation that we have to the assessing and collecting fund. That's a lot.
Thank you. I know you guys worked yesterday on all of this, so we truly appreciate it. We still need a few more details, but we're so close to being there to where we can at least talk about things with the knowledge of what we're talking about, which is so important.
So the total,
Yes.
all the amendments is on the back,
Yes.
and that is,
So we split out the use of fund balance for capital projects and the use of fund balance for operations and payroll.
so use of fund balance for capital was the 2.6.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
In this,
Yep. Yep. They're all in here.
use of fund balance for is 2.4.
Yep.
So we can find all that detail in here.
Yep. It's all in here.
And a lot of that, with some of you council members, I've gone through, the first couple pages, but then kind of the items that, the capital, the market, the merit, those items that we've discussed in other, prior meetings, we've now quantified what those numbers exactly are and included them in the budget amendment.
Okay.
So the question I have is, assuming we go through as a council and look through the capital projects and adopt a portion of it or some of it, would that be another budget amendment you'd have to prepare for?
No, the capital, we've already, if you change anything, we'll have to alter the figures for sure.
So you'd have to do this
So what we could do, if this was the one that was presented in front of you.
like an amount that you just put for capital improvements and then we can just change this document?
So Brittany did go in on each of those capital items. She separated them.
Yep, I added them in one by one. So if you guys decide that you didn't want to fund something that was recommended to be funded, we can strike it and we can cut it out, and then I just figured it was easier to delete them out than to add them all in later if we.
don't want to get a Bobcat attachment flail mower for $17,000. It's in here, and you can go through and just.
Yep, and we would just take that out, and we would just, so if you guys decided to, if you wanted to do it, like last year, we kind of did it in sections, like, we want to strike this and this and this from the amendment and see what it looks like, we could do that. And you guys could just say, take these out, and then next meeting, we could bring it and we could show you what that would look like with all of those taken out.
I've been treating these as two different documents, but you've merged these since into the one document as the amendments.
Yes.
So we now have just the tentative budget and the amendments, and that's what we're working on going forward. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I know.
It was requested to, yeah, I was like, it was requested to know what the bottom line was, and so the easiest way for us to do that was to put it all in the amendment document so that we could show you what that total fund balance use was going to be, or if everything, is accepted.
I don't
So.
really know what that piece of machinery is that is.
No, it's okay.
And we are taking
I really need it.
Pick on Matt Day today, yeah?
So, I was gonna say, there are 2 Bobcats in there. It looks
Yes.
like a duplicate.
Kubotas.
It is Kubotas.
There's 2
It is not
Kubota
a
tractors.
duplicate. For 2 pieces of equipment.
Okay.
And me and Brittany, we are gonna decide to take at least one day off for our holiday, Sunday later in the week.
Please.
You'll drive the Kubota.
Yeah.
That's right.
They are 77 and 78 are the 2 requests.
And all of the capital projects that are included have been vetted by the executive's office with each department to what is critical and prioritized. correct?
Yes, so all of the capital,
Yes.
I do want to let you guys know, you do
Okay, so I
have
did
the
not get-
capital summary sheet provided by the executive. The only amendments I included here are the ones that were proposed to be funded. So if they didn't propose to fund one that you guys want to fund, it would not be included in this amendment sheet.
So is the
But it was not, everything was all.
back truck in here since it's gonna be,
Yes, it's in here, and
it has the new funding source from municipal services?
yes, that's correct.
For the back truck.
Yeah, the back truck, oh, yeah, municipal.
So has that capital projects list been passed back through the department heads so they know if their project was there or not? Okay.
Not what's been included here. We haven't had a chance to yet do that.
I think we would want them to
Yes,
advocate.
actually, Dirk might.
If there's one that's not there that they want there, they'll need to advocate to let us know.
So a big part of the work that Wes has done, and we're still gonna work on this process, and Brittany for next year, and department heads, is that they had a total list, but then they were asked, well, what can you push to next year though? And so there's out there the whole list that actually shows a 2026 list too right now, and 2027.
Okay.
So over the last couple of weeks, when we've been working together to kind of hone down that capital list, I didn't approach elected department heads and say, you really need to take a thing or 2 off here. But the ones that were under us, we asked them to prioritize. And about the only one that might be a little harder to understand is Matt. Let's bring him up again, because he had his under several departments, and so together, and we were going over in the appropriations meeting how one of the things was a much higher priority, but it was kind of shown further down on the list. So we can help him prioritize those, but the list is meant to be, it's what they are saying they need in 2025. And honestly, if we need to lower it even more, I know that there are some things on there that probably could come up. So still.
Which is still
Like
gonna be
it's-
hard next year.
Yeah, well,
That's-
and it's about like, even with the vac truck, Matt's comment, and I tried to include some comments in this list. We'll make sure we get it to everyone tomorrow, updated. Like the vac truck, over the last few years, it's been more of a want, but now they're gonna use it constantly and it's more of a need now. But we found a good funding source for it. So that's just kind of an update in the story in those notes. But we'll update it with some of the technical things and get back out to everyone tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Again, we intend to put together a budget document to distribute to you guys as the council so you can see, a much more detailed, transparent with, an executive summary. It kind of summarizes what's being accomplished with the budget. So I'm hoping to make that document a little more robust. I've had my staff working on it. So you can see head count based on department, over historical time and a lot of other helpful information. It's just puts that transparency out to the public so they can have an idea where their tax dollars are being spent.
I think one major improvement is in the forms Wes has been having us work on is this budget document will also include projected fund balances beginning and ending, which weren't provided historically. So
Wes, the the spreadsheet that you showed us that had, showed us the different percentages of tax revenue, and then it had these updated lists, updated total costs for the market, or the personnel costs and the capital costs. We haven't had a copy of that sent to us yet.
Okay.
Can you send that? Because that gives me just an idea to work on. It's just the basics. Here's the revenue, here's the expenses.
I did, after the meeting started, I did send the scenarios. I don't know if you saw that in your email.
No, I didn't look yet.
We included the amendments, so you can see all the amendments, and then the
Oh, I got it.
PowerPoint.
Yep.
So you have that. So I think what you're looking for now is the capital list, which I think Dirk
sent it out to us.
might provide that.
Yeah.
We'll get the updated tomorrow and send it out to all the council members ASAP.
And department heads would be good too.
Yeah.
Perfect. Because that just gives us
I'm
the,
hearing market merit, those type of things. You want to see the detail on that?
I just like them separated, just the total. Like
Just
here's
the
what it would.
market and the merit
Yep,
separated.
here what it costs for the market increase that we talked about with the benefits, which we hadn't seen yet. And here's the merit increases with benefits. What are those two totals and how do we look at those?
Okay.
Because that'll be really helpful to see those totaled out.
I'm just gonna see if I can get this workbook to show. Doesn't seem to be responding, but I might have those numbers for you.
Mr. Chair, can I make one quick technical comment just in case it was missed?
You bet.
I apologize if Brittany already covered this, but Amendment 5, request to move the senior center into the general fund, just to absolutely clarify.
It already is.
That's, yeah, okay, good. We're not increasing any sort of general fund hit or load. It's just a technical change for the fund name more than anything else.
Yeah, they were always.
So it's eliminating the fund basically, and having it be part of the general fund statement.
You'll see, same with the fire.
Yeah.
If you go through here, you'll see the fire is the same. It was its own, and we, as the appropriations committee requested, they put it just back into the general fund because that's how it's getting.
Yeah, that way we can just see the general fund total rather than going out to different funds, because it all comes back to the general fund. So
All the expenses on, from all the different departments, you're going off of the tentative, the 2025 tentative budget line, column of all those expenditures of each
Yes.
of the
So-
departments. To get to this expenditure, to get to your 7.1 deficit that we
So
have.
the 7.1 that I showed on that scenario is the top line. That was the amount that
Hang on, I'm listening here.
the baseline budget that the executive gave to you. Didn't include any market merit,
Right.
manpower, and,
Right,
20
but see,
other,
you gave us
20
a bu-
other things.
In your budget worksheets that you gave us,
Yes.
okay? Basically, there was, in those, had all the different departments, then we had, what column? Are you using the requested 2025 column to get to that amount?
No.
Or are you using the tentative?
Tentative.
Tentative, okay.
the only changes to the tentative budget are in this
So then,
document right
so
here.
basically, you're just using this column here to get to that point.
Yeah, and you should be able to see the 7.1.
Look on page 5, find page 5 of your
Here it
tentative
is.
budget.
It's 5.
There's page 5 of the tentative.
One page, I think. No. So there's your 7.16.
Right. But that's what it's all through the tentative, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nothing to change the tentative
See,
budget
and
except this.
that's what I'm having, there's 2 columns there we gotta change, so, but
Yeah.
anyway.
So there
requested budget,
is
we're
a
just
slight
reporting.
difference on the statement, but on the scenario list I gave you, I matched the tentative, and then in the amendments, we also had a trails that was moved. Go ahead, explain the trails
So-
portion.
When you guys are looking at the fund balances here, this column, this first column should match the tentative budget amounts. However, when we get to the use of fund balance, it's higher here because, and I could probably work on separating this out, but I didn't think about it before this meeting. There's a restricted trails fund balance that's included in this dollar amount. So the 7.18, it's a higher, that difference between the 7.16 and the 7.18.
It's like
That trails.
$23,000.
Yeah, it's like $24,000. But it's that restricted trails fund balance.
So we're using restricted funds instead of,
Yeah, so I just wanted
Fund
to, I
balance.
just wanted you to know that's what that difference is in the two documents.
but I do have those numbers as far as split. I'll send them out in an email just so you can see market and merit split.
Okay, who here, I got a question, who here from the council is, I guess, is good with basically with the 2025 tentative budget?
Not yet.
I agree.
Yep.
We have
That's
got
just-
to cut something.
Yeah.
I don't know
So,
where, but if we don't, then we didn't listen tonight very
Yeah.
well.
This just gives us an overview of where we're at and where we need to get to.
yeah, and I agree there, but that's what that's why I'm saying, you know, how we got to these numbers tells me where we need to go to make some changes, so.
So does it make sense for me and Dirk to dive into some of these accounts and see if we can't find some of those changes and just
I'd rather the
provide you an
department
update?
heads start the cutting than the council have to pick on something, is my opinion. I mean,
My thought generally, sorry to interrupt you, Nolan. My thought generally is, you know, if they're exceeding maybe a cumulative 6% increase off the 23 actuals that got spent, then those are probably the areas that we could go look in our operating budgets. So,
But getting the actual story from each department head will really help you.
yes.
Start to dig into that, take some notes.
well, we couldn't have gone through tonight and not feel compassion for what our constituents are seeing and going through. So we need to permeate that throughout the county and try to be, and I know our county very well. I love our employees. I have no disdain or anything for them, but I'm just saying, okay, somewhere can we just find some places to trim and cut, and I still want our employees to know they're awesome and we value them, but we also gotta listen to our constituents too.
Also, I mean, if we're gonna say the buck stops here, we added $7 million last year.
In requests.
In requests.
No, we
During-
didn't. I think we started
Not
at a
that
deficit
much,
last
yeah.
year, but we added, I think we were at a deficit of 4 million
4 million
last year, and then we added the 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So we have to see where we're gonna make that up, and that's part of where we are now. Between positions, and again, we have unfunded mandates. I mean, I'm not saying
Several
it's not, we have
unfunded mandates.
several unfunded mandates from the
Nolan just, yeah,
legislature.
Nolan described that very well.
Yeah, we have several unfunded mandates, but I mean, a lot of this is, we were given a pretty flat budget, but then we had increases from previous years. And most of that is like personnel, again, unfunded mandates from the legislature, and
Well, and some of the market increases we're talking about with our public safety, you
Yeah,
know,
when-
it's like they're actively getting recruited to other places to
when our
pay
sheriff
more.
comes and says, hey, I need to pay these guys, or they're going to go someplace else and I need to keep my staff.
Yeah, public safety is pretty high up
We
there.
have elected officials coming and telling us that. I don't second guess sheriff.
It's 100% true.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes right back to when you say the buck stops here, when we had those requests, we weren't out soliciting those requests. We were
Right.
trying to respond to what county employees and what county is saying to us. All I'm saying is we need to get that magnifying glass closer to the paper and say, what can be cut? I agree on the personnel, we gotta keep them, but at the same time,
Well,
if there's any fluff, it goes right back to what Carl said before. Where's our revenue versus our expenditures?
yeah. And yet, the thing is, I think we have to look at seriously. It's tough, but maybe we're going to have to cut some services or reduce some services that we cannot provide, and people will have to find other sources. I mean, the person that indicated about funding recreation with tax funds, I completely concur with. I don't think that should be a government's role to provide recreation.
There's no
for
recreation in
citizens.
our budget right
No,
now.
no,
I was gonna say,
I'm-
we don't do
I'm
that.
just talking about.
We don't do that.
We don't.
Just an overall
Yeah.
mindset that maybe there are some services that we need to consider cutting back on.
The only general fund we provide is senior services. That's about all we have is the senior center.
And
There's a statutory obligation.
Yeah.
And we have a statutory obligation
But even that's
for
limited.
Meals on Wheels,
Yeah.
but that's about it.
Even that's limited, so.
I think what Carl's trying to get out with the recreation is we're just looking at another tax that people that they're wanting to put on for the county to approve, and we will not do it. Yeah.
Okay,
Well, on to the next meeting, I guess.
okay, this gives us some, again, a really good foundation, Wes. And I know we need to get this done in the next 3 weeks. We got
Well, this is our timeline here. We meet the 26th,
the 3rd and the 10th.
yeah, 3rd and the 10th. And I think it would be great to make sure that we scrutinize this and basically go through all the details that we can. Our goal ought to be at least probably have this all but ready for the 3rd, to be kind of
I agree.
a good, to be as much finalized as possible, so even if it's passed on the 3rd.
I think that's
the hard work that we've got the next few weeks.
The
I'm
appropriation.
sorry, Mr. Chair, I was looking at the document in here. Did we give Dirk and Wes a directive as a council? I'm sorry, I wasn't looking.
Over which?
Did we give them some direction?
Capital.
I don't know, I just wondered if we
Well,
gave them a direction.
sounds like
No,
Did we give
I
them a clear directive,
I
of
think-
like, please do this? Because I didn't.
I've got a whole list that I can do, but I can't present that out right now.
Oh, okay.
You know, because that's what I'm sitting, I'm basically looking at and getting those numbers that you shared, where they come from, yes, I have ideas as to where I think that we ought to cut back. And so I wanted to make sure what numbers you're using. So I go and I make sure I use the right numbers too, and match them. And so I figured on the 26th, I would bring, I would have those available here, to be, basically to be shared, so that you guys could plug them in if they're adopted. So,
They're hard discussions, but any ideas on cuts that you want to give the rest of the council the best info, we'd be happy to vet them through department heads. Because they're gonna be the ones that can give you the best idea on effect and reduction in services.
we were hoping that,
Change.
If I could get a more updated, because right now I have the tentative budget from
yeah,
months ago that is not accurate. It's
it
not
was
helpful.
September 17th.
I'm more than happy to go through line by line and with, whoever my council liaison is, and go line by line and recommend
See,
for cuts. and
See,
whatever.
as a council, we were hoping that had already been done. That you guys went through it, and that you're saying that's your needs, but I'm seeing some pretty stiff increases in some areas that I don't think. And in 2024, apparently they didn't seem like a need, now all of a sudden there are a need in some things, and I was hoping then you guys are supposed to come to us during those workshops and then plead your case as to why I need these increases, which I thought you guys did very well in providing those things, and I didn't get a whole lot of compelling things that were told to me in those workshops that said, we gotta have this to survive. These are just, this is what we're doing, but nothing really derivative as to what, say, hey, this is what I need. So then it comes to the council, we accepted the tentative budget, now we as a council, we can work through it. And we can come and we can ask questions and things like that, see how it does affect all of them. We're hoping though that all that discussion would have been done, so that we have some concrete things for us to look at and then cut from there. And there'll probably be some hard pills to swallow. I still think that we're doing a lot of I worry that we're doing a lot of services for other entities, or that we're doing things outside, or just nice things outside of what we as a county should even be involved in. We should just be of support, not, you know, doing a whole bunch of social things either. And I'm saying we need to cut those things. So,
Didn't we last year say to the departments a certain percent cut? So
we did, and I think it all got added
Giving
in.
direction, right? So we say, let's find the cut of certain percent or something, because, yeah, we gotta,
Otherwise, we're here 2 weeks from now in the same spot.
Yeah, we asked for 3 to 5% last year.
I think it makes sense to maybe just kind of, because many of the departments are fairly flat in their operating. So I think it makes sense if Dirk and I went out on specific targeted areas where, again, has their budget increased, in the operating accounts, has their budget increased more than 6%? And if so, why? And maybe get more detail from department heads, because I think some of these departments, you know, example Taylor is probably a good example. Many of the justice courts are closing down, right? So I'm sure that's going to add burden to his department. So some of that information, as we go and they're able to sit down and talk through their budget, I think it'd be good to, you know, kind of also go to them and say, okay, you can cut some. If you're going to cut 40,000 in your department, where do you want it cut? So that they can say specific accounts on where they, you know, where they can cut back their program.
But, and additionally, I would hope it would give us the granularity to see that if we cut, then this is the impact on their operation and their service, and is that in the best interest of the community?
Correct.
Well, then, can I ask that if that's what you're suggesting, and if the council agrees with it, that we have that all done in 2 weeks? So when we come back to our next meeting,
For the 26th.
for the 26th, that we have a better idea? And I
Oh,
know that's asking a
it's a
lot.
lot.
That's asking a lot, but
But-
we're behind the 8 ball here.
Let me and Dirk meet tomorrow and see what we can set up with department heads and start that process and maybe give you updates as we're going.
Okay.
I think that's maybe the best way to go about it, is just give you an update on where we're at, maybe a week into it. So we have an idea. Again, you know, if I'm not able to get to them within a 2-week time period, it may take 3 weeks, may take 4 weeks, I don't know, but
You're going to have to take your days off in December, Wes. Sorry. Sorry. Okay.
does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
Yep. Okay, so feel free to reach out, even with each other. You know, that got questions and ideas and that, share it with each other, and so that we can get this taken care of. And I'm hoping the 26th is a kind of the final mold that we can put on it, and have it come back and take a look at the final thing, and hopefully vote for on the 3rd. I think we can do it. Well, we have to.
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
We have to. I appreciate the scenarios and maybe the lower percentage of increase and some things, and so the more savings, we gotta dig into the more savings that we can have, the less burden that we put on anybody. So I think that's valuable. Okay, let's not pass the resolution 2024-23 right now.
No.
So we're not quite ready. Any other discussion right there? It has been a good evening. USAC Fall Conference, any more additions?
Catherine? Am I on there?
No, you're not.
No.
Put Catherine on there.
I'm on there.
Registered and everything, I hope?
Yeah, I registered myself.
Okay.
Turns out Micah's job was really easy.
He's laughing.
Uh,
candy tonight.
Council member reports. Go ahead, Mark.
Gee, I don't think there's any official update that I would bring. We had all pieces last meeting? Yeah.
Did we have what?
We did, at the O&P meeting.
Oh,
Not much from that to
no,
report.
we're still working on the whistleblower policy.
Yep, so, nothing from me.
Nolan?
I'm still trying to figure out what John White said when he said I'd have fun here. No, I have nothing tonight, but heavy enough, so.
Thank you for being here.
No, I don't think I have anything to report to.
Neither do I.
Just the appropriations meeting scheduled 2 more meetings between now and December 10th, I think. So we need to, look, there's more things that we can discuss as the appropriations meeting committee as well.
Nothing, Dave.
Well, we appreciate everyone, all your efforts and everything, because this is it's a lot to dig into. A lot. It's a lot to dig into. But I hope tonight we've also seen where the rubber meets the road. In other words, the people that pull their earned money out, you know, they pay their taxes, they you know, as far as if they're getting unnecessary services that they shouldn't have to pay for, then we need to cut that service. And we really need to look at some of the things that we're doing for nonprofits, for things like that. They are nice, but I'm sorry to say, we just need to support them rather than be spending time for them and everything, so. But it's digs pretty deep, and so I know we can do it. And I appreciate every one of you.
Dave, thank you for that opening tonight. That was awesome.
That was nice.
That was, it was,
Repeat it, will you, since I couldn't be here?
I'll give you I'll send you the link. It was really good.
It was awesome.
Oh, good.
But appreciate everyone that's attended here. So appreciate your time, and it's been good. Almost sounds like a farewell speech.
I know, we're going to say amen.
It may be.
I know.
Don't put that in the Herald Tribune. Well, at that point, we'll then go ahead and adjourn.